Just a quick mic check, and make sure everything's working. Good morning. All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast series. But the QA, the SGG QA, is the important part. Some Gadget Guy question and answer. We like to make this an interactive conversation every Monday morning. We can chat out all of our reactions to the top news stories of the last week, or maybe some news broke over the weekend. And never is that more precious, or never is that more important than on the last Monday of every month, where I like to kind of host a bit of a pajama podcast, just something really chill, really laid back. I don't have the same like structure of news and gadget stories and links and reviews and all that stuff. We're gonna let the chat take the wheel. I already see an amazing group here in the chat. Jimmy Fire Dragon giving everyone heads ups. We've got Joshua Luther. We've got Kib48, Ron Guido. We got Georgie. What's up, Georgie? Simon says Hypno. Colin Murphy is playing Ingress, is out on a lovely walk out in the UK while listening to the show. Vazikos, I'm missing some people in here. I apologize, but we're gonna keep this one easy breezy, lemon squeezy. I don't think that's a saying. We're gonna keep this one nice and chill. I figure I've got a couple topics we can bring up. I feel we need to spend some time talking about Pixel 10, the launch, the reactions to the launch, the reactions to the phone, how horrifically astroturfed and gamed the entire tech media landscape is right now. If individual reviewer YouTuber channels have their hands on the phone, it's because Google gave it to them. And that was totally suspect when people were complaining about Team Pixel, but it's totally fine now that Google is hand selecting individual creators to have early access. That's not a conflict. So already bitter. It's great. It's great. Aditya is saying, "Aw, everyone say hey to Aditya. I'm going out to dinner with a friend. Can't stay for long. Glad I could join for a few minutes, and I love you all. Hey, have a great dinner." Do not let a live streaming tech podcast get in the way of some good face-to-face time with some pals and stuff out there. You always catch the replay. Maybe to make up for it, just leave the replay of this on loop, and set up like a mini PC that does nothing but stream my videos. And don't do that, because Google will absolutely content or community strike my channel if people start like trying to rig what's going on. We got Hassam. Everyone's saying that Aditya needs to have a good night tonight. I love that. So I'm gonna start off the way that we usually do. I hope everybody out there had a lovely weekend. I'm a little sort of vibraty and twitchy because my wife and I did not get the best night's sleep last night because we've got big news. It's big, exciting family news, and something that you'll probably see a lot on this channel. Now, I just want to preface, my daughter is a rambunctious fourth grader. She is my absolute favorite photography subject. I think we've shared publicly maybe 10 photos of her across various social media platforms. Maybe a few more. Now, actually, now that I say that, it might be a few more than 10. I don't know that we've shared many where her face is identifiable. We are not sharing my daughter across social media. My wife and I grew up without our every waking moment being used for likes and shares and internet points, and we wanted to afford her the same sort of quality of privacy to do goofy things as they grow up. And I really feel strongly that as kids of this age start getting into like middle school and their peers start discovering social media, all of that content that their parents have pumped out, I think is going to be weaponized against them. Oh, look, here's the adorable little photo of my baby in the bath. And like, that's all out there on the internet, right? So that aside, very, very, very shortly after my daughter was born, our beloved family pet, our dog, Bigelow, passed away. And there was a brief moment where Bigelow was one of the most, um, I don't want to say popular. We didn't really talk about things like that. But when like Bigelow was 4 or 5, he was one of the most viewed examples of a Shar on the internet. Because I was using him as like a photography subject for almost everything that I was doing. Even silly things like back then I was also doing a lot more like audio recording, voiceover, craft technique kinds of posts and content. And if I was unboxing a new microphone, you would see this Sharpay snout, sniffing the box. Like there was a brief moment. If you looked up Sharpay, Bigelow was an example of Sharpay. But because I don't share photos of my daughter, I would say roughly 80% of the photos I take on my devices now are you'll never see. I'm not sharing photos of my daughter until she feels that she is able to weigh in on how her likeness is used in family content. So, we have been, since we moved into this place, we've been in this condo for a couple of years now. We've been looking at, wanting to get another dog. I want my daughter to have those pet experiences, and it's just always been like one thing after another. Oh, we've got these family trips coming up, and oh, we can't, adopt a pet and then immediately board it. That's just cruel. But my wife and I were at a shelter. There's this lovely organization called Paw Works, and we've gone to Paul Works a bunch of times, and my daughter loves to go in, kind of poke around the cages, look at all the puppies. She likes to watch them play, and then she leaves. And there's never been any of this like, oh, I need to pick something. I need to have a dog. But my wife and Lex, Marie and Lex, went to Paul Works on Saturday, and I get this frantic flurry of messages from Marie, and I get a call from Marie like, Lex is not letting go of this puppy, and she did not want to adopt a dog without me being there. And I was like, well, do you think this is like precious? Do you think like someone's going to swoop in if you come back home, grab me, and then we go back to Paw Works? And Lex was panicked. And apparently she had good reason to, because like all of the little puppies in this litter had already been snatched up. This was like the last one that hadn't been spoken for and people weren't filling out paperwork for. So Lex is like vice gripping this puppy on a couch like, I'm not leaving. I'm not going. And so I say to Marie, like, this is what we've kind of been looking for. She needs to have like an emotional reaction. There's something, some kind of zing that happens. Like there's this dog, and I see this dog at a shelter, and there's something about the temperament or something about the way it behaves. I don't know. That's gonna be my dog. And she had that experience. So Marie and Lex finished all of the adoption paperwork, and we welcomed home the fourth Bagnell in this household. The shelter named him Brian. Lex is keeping the name. So this is Brian, and I'll go ahead and screen share. This is the photos that I shared on the Discord. So this is our, oh, I have to resize the screen here. Let's just scooch that up. And this is Brian Bagnell, a total goofy terrier mix mutt. I think there might be a little Chihuahua in there. He's got really long, wispy fur. His head is really round, but he's got a longer snout than most Chihuahuas. So I think there's a little Chihuahua, a little terrier in there. Like you can almost see like in this angle, like there's a little Jack Russell, like just a little bit of a some kind of Russell Terrier in there, but he's a vocal, high energy little scamp, a mutt, a total mutt, shelter dog that we brought home on Saturday, and he kept us up most of the night Saturday night, and he kept Marie up most of the night Sunday night. She was very gracious to let me just kind of go to bed while she handled this, so I could have a good show for y'all today. And I'm still kind of wiped out. I'm still kind of tired, but that's our new buddy. And already, what's amazing is I've already kind of fallen back into that. How do I shoot off the hip, get the best possible photo? These are like dark indoor or sometimes nighttime conditions. I want like, oh, he's like napping and he's doing something really cute. And it's that thing that I've been doing with Lex that I haven't been able to show anyone because I'm not sharing photos of Lex. And so when I talk about, I get really, sardonic. I get really pissy when people are like, "Oh, well, if you want the best phone for taking pictures of kids and pets, it's action, it's this. You want this phone." And you're like, that's really not true. There's so many different feels. Like if I go to a Vivo, I know I'm doing this and I know I'm going to get that. If I go to a Xiaomi, I know if I do the same thing, I'm going to get something totally different. But it's all of these little like feels, these little pros and cons, how each phone and each camera kind of handles a different situation. And when you've got a bouncy floppy puppy who's running around your living room like crazy and then immediately falls over and takes a nap, those are wild like moments and swings in how you capture photos. So I'm already excited. I think Brian will probably be making regular appearances on the channel. The first photos of Brian were of course taken by the Xiaomi 15 Ultra and the Vivo X200 Pro, because you need good sensors for that, and so there's nothing a Pixel can do in those situations. And I know when I get the Pixel 10, like I'm really cranky about having spent as much money as I did on a Pixel 10 Pro. That'll be a contributing factor in this conversation. Like, yeah, it's cool that the Pixel 10 Pro can unblur Brian in movement, but you know what would be better than unblurring that photo is just getting the exposure right in the first place to freeze action. So, Ron Guido, it's BB for short. And we did not plan this, but when I met our little Shar-Pei, and he didn't have a name, he was a wrinkly Shar-Pei puppy baby. We probably got him too young. I don't know that he was well weaned off of his mom, but he was so pale and wrinkly. The first thing that popped into my head was Bigglesworth from the Austin Powers films, the hypoallergenic cat, which was just all wrinkles. But I couldn't name my dog after a cat, so he was named actually after Bigelow T. And of course, that was at around the same time that Deuce Bigelow had come out. Not spelled like Deuce Bigelow, we spelled his name like the T, Bigelow T, because he was a sophisticated, frumpy-looking young man with an old soul. Shar-Peis, they're very distinguished looking, they're very dignified. T is the correct course of action, of course. JGJ isn't an inside joke since his name sounds like the dog from Family Guy. That's what the shelter named him, and so Lex imprinted on this dog, and she asked what's the dog's name, and the people at the shelter said his name is Brian, and so his name is Brian, and she's sticking with it. I feel like you could kind of maybe see the way his triangular ears kind of flop down. Maybe they were making kind of a riff, like maybe he does look a little like Brian from Family Guy. I don't think so. I don't think that's what he's going to grow up to look like, and I think he'll darken a little as he gets older. But yeah, we're gonna have to explain to Lex that there is a talking dog character because she's never seen an episode of Family Guy. So, but inadvertently, not that we planned this. Now all of our dogs apparently have B names, so they can be BB. So it was Bigelow Bear Bagnell, and Lexi wants to give Brian the middle name DOG. So DOG, which is I think is a joke from one of her shows, like not Phineas and Ferb. I think it's I can't remember, Milo, something Milo. I don't. It's a show I don't watch. But he'll end up probably being Brian DOG. We're not Italian, but it's a joke because it's DOG. Simon says, Hypno, definitely some terrier blood in there. Again, I can't figure out, like maybe a border terrier because his fur is a little longer. I feel like there's some rustle in there, but he is like, that's what I love. We had a Shar-Pei, he was purebred, and lots of health problems. We had lots of health problems. I feel like we lived with Bigelow longer than the average length of a Shar-Pei's life cycle. And we took really good care of him, but there were some years where it was just really rough. rough on us emotionally and rough on the dog, and just, I don't know. We might have made different decisions now looking back on it with a little more maturity. But I did not want to do that again. I did not want to go purebred. I did not want to go designer, like when puggles were a fad and now it's all about doodles. And I worry that, like, sure, there's some great breeders out there, but you're spending $4,000 on a dog that just happens to be kind of a fad. Are you really getting a healthy animal, or are you just getting a product from a machine that's churning out slop, right? It makes me very anxious. And so we met this dog, and he is an amalgamation of many different animals. So it's like, I feel we're good. From Sun John, hey Juan, I'm definitely looking to see your perspective and full review on the Pixel 10 Pro. Thank you, because it's an expensive phone to pick up, and I'm really bummed that I guess I'm just a part of that cycle now where I have to keep spending money on things at the best trade-in, launch prices that I can. It's pretty funny stuff. From Farhan, if anything, I need to use manual mode on the Xiaomi and Vivo to get my desired photo output. The Sony is pretty much bang on even in normal auto mode. And I feel like that is a great realization to pay attention to, because some of these phones love to do a lot of HDR processing, which I think slows down the photo capture. So if you've got a fast moving subject and it's trying to make the background super bright and HDR-y, you're going to get more blur because you're getting longer raw stacked images to boost brightness. But I don't care about brightness. I'm trying to get this puppy like jumping around our living room. So Sony, they don't do that. Their JPEGs really do feel like I took a raw image and then I turned that into a JPEG. So if you've got a really fast shutter on a Sony, you end up with a very clear photo of movement, of action. Even in daylight, I'm finding like the phones that are doing the most brightness, color saturation, HDR image processing, I'm not getting the best movement. Or you'll take like a couple photos in a not a bracket, but in a burst, not like holding it down and doing the burst, but like photo, and like the first one will have this full HDR processing, and then the next three will have that like single raw image look where the background's blown out, and you're like, I actually kind of wish I could pick, it'd be great. Oh yeah, JGJ, it is that. So Weird Al is one of the voices on, it's Milo Murphy's Law. Milo Murphy's Law, that's what it is. Yeah, good call, JGJ. From Mr. Maug, I want a pit bull. I love pits. I cannot own a pit. That is a commitment to a high energy working animal, an incredibly powerful example of the species. And my heart goes out to the people that can raise healthy pits. Pit bulls are incredible dogs. They really are. And it's just such a shame that they are so often abused by people that are terrible people. But pit bulls are incredible. See, Biggs as a Shar-Pei was like a lazy pit bull. If you look at the musculature of a Sharpie, they're like a little mini pit bull. And they were kind of bred for very aggressive reasons. Like the reason all those wrinkles are there is actually kind of a defense mechanism. It's beneficial to have dogs that, like, if you try and get them at the throat, they have all this extra fur so they can kind of wriggle free and then get out of like an attacker's grip. Similarly, like mastiffs. When mastiffs have really wrinkly fur, it's kind of a defense. So when they're breeding dogs to go after wild boars, funnily enough, they kind of look like on the borders of like pit bulls and Shar-Peis and mastiffs. A lot of those adaptations are beneficial to that kind of hunting or that kind of population control. So yeah, if you get a pit bull, you're in for a wild ride, but hopefully you've got the energy and the temperament and the consistency to pull it off. Yeah, and exactly, Paltrax. That's why some breeds are banned. It's just basically animal cruelty. Simon says, Hypno, so many dog breeders, so many dodgy breeders ruining dogs. And the second there's a fad. I've seen so many oodles, and now I'm like we were looking at some of these other breeders. We got recommendations from a family friend. They got a dog. Their dog is amazing. But I'm looking up the breeder they went through, and it's like, man, I don't have $4,000 to just throw at a dog. And I don't know. It makes me really nervous how they're doing business. Oh no. Oh, from Georgie. It doesn't matter the breed. You can always send his DNA for testing, and you gonna know everything about him, breed percentage, and if he is healthy. See, that's the thing. I want to know a little bit about the breed because so many different. I mean, look at how many different types of terrier there are, right? And when you know, like, hey, this was a terrier that was originally bred to hunt vermin. This was a terrier that was originally bred to rein in small, like, goats and sheep and stuff. You get a sense of the dog's temperament. They're kind of programmed like machines to accomplish certain tasks. And that's going to change. Like, is this a dog that I'm going to have to take to the park every day and just run the energy out of them with a ball? Or is this the kind of dog that I'm going to have to like really invest in a lot of like chews and rawhides and stuff like that? Is that the kind of dog that helps them get like potential aggression out? It's good to know. But yeah, when he gets a little bit older, we still need to wrap up his shots. He's already been fixed. We just need to kind of keep an eye on what traits start emerging. Because the combo of like a Chihuahua, like a long-haired Chihuahua and a Terrier means this is going to be a really high energy dog. This is one of those dogs that's going to think it's bigger than it is. Like, we're going to have to keep an eye on Brian and make sure he is well exercised. And I'm really looking forward to, like, one, I'll get some extra steps, but also running some of the energy out of Lex. My daughter is a high energy. It's not terribly surprising that this is the temperament that my daughter locked in on. Mr. Mag, my mom would just arrive with a German Shepherd instead. I think she listens to Pitbull the rapper. Oh, Barry Johnson's in the chat. Everyone say, hey, Barry. I haven't chatted with Barry. We got to, like, catch up and stuff, man. Who else we got? Oh, JGJ, you associated Phineas and Ferb since it's the same animation team that handled both series. I was not aware of that, but apparently that's one of the things that my brain clicked in on. 20 years of working in entertainment and voiceover. Who knew? Barry Johnson has a lab pit mix. See, and labs, they're such good dogs, and giving it some of that working energy from a pit, man, that sounds like a cool dog, Barry. I wish we had a bigger place and like a proper backyard and I could work that kind of dog. That sounds like an awesome dog. Simon says, Hypno, the wrinkles on bulldogs were to have blood flow away from the eyes. I did not know that. And Dan Tana, what is up, Dan Tana? Si, senor, si, senor. Because he used to say, yes, sir, yes, sir. So I used to jump in there because I'm like Mexican and stuff. So I'd be like, si, senor, si, senor. Ron Guido, I got a pit from the SPCA. She will lick you unmercifully. Love it. Love it. Mr. Maug, I see so many French bulldogs, especially in rich neighborhoods. Frenchies are having a moment. What's the other one? They're like the little gremlin-y. There's the Frenchie, and then there's something else. Like, it's not pugs. But there was another one that so we had a Shar-Pei. I love wrinkly-faced, unique character dogs. But again, the breeding, as pugs I think are a good example of this. I think the breeding is what makes me nervous. Is Biggs had so many health issues and so many problems with his eyes because of all of those wrinkles. You really worry about how the breed has been managed and bred, and if this is a responsible breeder that's looking to kind of course correct for some of those traits that can really hurt a dog. And on Kathy's in the chat, we loved our fluffy Shamrock for 17 years. Shih Tzus are wonderful and no allergies. I remember Shamrock. Barry Johnson, my 1-year-old lab pit is the strongest, most athletic, and highest energy dog that I have ever owned. Dude, you are 1-year-old? You still haven't peaked, man. That dog is gonna be a machine. Start hooking it up to like small wagons and having it like cart stuff for you. My Bigelow was a 50, maybe a 55-pound Shar Pei. He was easily able to outpower Marie. He would give me a struggle. And especially like when I was younger, leaner, healthier, stronger, we're talking like a 3-to-1 weight difference and sometimes almost equal power distribution. The power to weight ratio of a dog is absolutely insane. I'm trying to like warn Lex. I don't think Brian's going to get bigger than like 25 pounds. I think he's going to be a little dog, 25 pounds, maybe a little bit bigger. She is not going to be prepared for what a 25-pound dog can put out. If this dog gets away from her, she's not going to be able to run down and catch a 25-pound dog. If this dog decides it really wants to put the brakes on and doesn't want to keep walking on a walk, she's not going to be able to just drag a 25-pound dog. It's hilarious. So again, it's all about like the educational opportunity. I think this is going to help her grow. This is going to be her friend, someone that she can talk about like how annoyed she is with her parents, stuff like that. But it's also like the learning when you get a dog, you learn a lot about how animals work. For Mr. Mag, do you prefer dogs over cats? So I would love to have a cat, but I've never grown out of it. It seems to have gotten worse with age. I have terrible allergies. So if I take a bunch of allergy medication, like if I triple my daily Zyrtec allergy med, I can hang out around a cat for about 45 minutes. And then I start to feel my eyes itch. And as soon as I feel my eyes itch, I know I've got minutes before my throat starts to close up. And I might still need to take like a Benadryl or something just to kind of knock it out. Cats are awesome. Cats have that really great kind of temperament, the kind of like, life that Marie and I had led for so long. Just like, set it and forget it. Here's an animal that tolerates our existence. I love the attitude of a cat. But unfortunately, they cause death. So I can't have a cat. From Juan Carlos, what's going to be the best phone for photographers coming out? And I think we can have a chat about that. I've got a lot of thoughts on that. Simon Says Hypno saying, Boston Terrier, thank you. It's another one of those little gremlin-y dogs that's kind of having a moment right now. I couldn't remember Boston Terrier. From Abhishek, I have a lab local Indian dog mix. He's a lovable dog who's too lazy to chase cats. He'll just sit and watch them eat his food. And you know what, man? When you have a good couch buddy like that, you still need to make sure their hips don't get all arthritic and stuff. But like, when Biggs was near the end of his life, he was just the sweetest, the chillest, like just kind of curl up, watch some TV with you. You'd maybe kick him over a little popcorn kernel every now and then. Like it was good energy. And if you've got that kind of calm buddy that keeps you calm and you keep him calm, that's awesome. From Jimmy Fire Dragon, I think my dog has some tiny bits of husky in him, and I think he might have some King Charles as well. Huskies are pretty crazy. The only husky I've ever met, like actually spent some time with one of my friend's huskies, was an absolutely bonkers dog. So I don't have much experience with them. I don't know what the King Charles is. I'll have to look that up. JGJ, Corgis, Shih Tzu, Iba, still having moments. Unfortunately, I'm more of a cat person. And that's totally, like I said, that's totally fine. If your energy is cat energy, go with the cat. Cats are awesome. I love how they would absolutely eat us if they were bigger. They're not, there's something lovely about a cat and loving about a cat, but it's a very sort of survival of the fittest energy from a cat. Dogs need us. Like, they could not survive without us. Cats tolerate us. And I kind of want both in my life, but I'm not allergic to dogs and I'm wildly allergic to cats. Stevie, I currently have 2 female Dachshund long breed and short hair. Love the breed. So Lex really likes the little wiener dogs. Again, I think Marie went to Paul Works because there was a Dachshund mix and she was trying to find that dog. And then they passed this little cage full of these terrier mutts. And that's what Lex just locked in on. But yeah, I think they went to go in and visit a dachshund. Oh, Goat V8. Oh, we'll say it one more time. So this is Brian. Brian is an adorable mutt of a terrier. I think it's a terrier Chihuahua mix. That's what I'm banking on. He's got a really really round skull, but he's got a long snout, and he's got a lot of terrier markings. But he's got kind of the longer wispy fur of a long-haired Chihuahua. So that's my guess. But that's Brian. He is now the fourth member of our family. I already love him to bits, even though he's keeping us up at night. Let's see. Mr. Maug. Cats are overpowered creatures, and I just learned they basically domesticated themselves. No, they did. That's what I mean. We domesticated the dog. Humans evolved concurrently with domesticating dogs. Like, we kind of need each other in a way. Cats saw an opportunity. Wait a minute. If I shrink in size, they'll just feed me. Okay, that sounds great. I am willing to make that compromise. See, it's like a completely different like evolutionary trend. I love it. Yeah, Simon says no, exactly. We are merely a convenience for cats. And when we outlive our usefulness, then the cats will move on. Oh, and Blank Lux. Oh, over on the Twitch. I love this. Heyo, I loved your channel a while back about the LG G8 ThinQ. I'm still rocking mine from 2019. I recently replaced the battery on my G8 in red. I love to hear that. I still feel like there are so many people who could pick up an older phone, especially from 2019. 2019 and 2020. Those are phones that we had like crested over, and they became incredible pocket computers with amazing features, expandability, all the ports, all of the upgrade potential. And you go and do something like just pop in a fresh battery, and that is a phone that could absolutely hang with modern phones today, especially some of the mid-rangers that have not really beaten the performance of those premium phones from 2019. So I love to hear, like, if you're able to kind of run that phone, you're good on the software, you're not too worried about like managing the potential malware, security stuff. The hardware is still just gorgeous, and there's no reason why it couldn't still be hanging today. So. Oh yeah, and that's another thing too, is unfortunately he says a little laggy here and there. I think the replacement battery has a bit less charge than the original, but it's better than what it had. Unfortunately, the replacement parts have now all gotten a little older, so you're kind of going in with a battery that's already slightly degraded, but it's less degraded than what you had in the phone originally. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. But if you're able to rock it for a while, what I would also recommend is when you're shopping a new phone, keep the G8 in reserve. LGs make the best Second Life media players. There's like someone else, I think, over on the Discord that recently just he found an LG G7, and he's basically just wiped it, set it all up, put a ton of music on there. It's like his portable media player, so he can use nice earbuds on a portable media player, and then it frees up his phone from having to do all that too. Go V8. My cats and I have an agreement that whomever dies first will be eaten. I feel like the cats are probably going to come out ahead on that one, bud. And I just need to do a quick pause here real fast. One Mr. Anderspan over on the Twitch subscribed. They've been subscribed for 36 months. That's our 3-year anniversary. So you get the hilariously embarrassing, because my streaming setup is still absolute crap, the acapella fanfare of glory. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everybody who's like kind of tuning in. I understand why so many people use the YouTubes, but YouTube is actively trying to hurt us creators, and I co-stream on Twitch and LinkedIn, and it really means a lot when people are supporting the show. the bits, the subscriptions, the Prime subscriptions. Even if you're just subscribing with a free Prime subscription for you, it still means a lot to me. So hopefully we can continue these conversations, keep them rolling, keep them going, and I really do appreciate all that you are doing out there. The people sharing, if you can't field like a subscription or a Patreon or something like that, even just sharing the links and sharing the posts and sharing the reviews, that's absolutely huge. So let me take a quick drink of coffee. Let me do just a quick sip here. My voice is a little scratchy. Like I said, I'm super tired right now. I'll take a quick sip. Where do we want to go? There was some funny AI reaction commentary over the last week because Sam Altman used the B word in describing the market of AI. Or do we want to jump right into what like the main headline event was for Android fans last week? Talk about Google, the Google event, Jimmy Fallon, Pixel 10. Put a vote in the chat. Jump in the chat right now and let me know, what do we want to do? AI slop and potential bubble bursting, or Pixel 10 and launch and how keynotes are hard? And let me take a quick drink of coffee and I'll come right back. Whew. Yeah, sorry about that. Like, I took a drink of coffee and there's still like this little tickle in the back of my throat, and I couldn't I couldn't shake it. So I took an extra second. Also got some water from Mr. Maug. I heard you guys talking about this in last week's podcast, but man, the only issue I have with my Tab S8 Plus is that 8 Gen 1 chip. I had very good experiences on the Tab S8 for using that chip compared to phones. But I will say, as soon as you can get a tablet with an 8 Gen 2 or better, it gets a lot nicer. We got the Bionic Scoop jumping in. One! Scoop! Again, another person I'm going to be really interested to hear when we start talking about smartphone cameras. If Scoop's around, man, you should definitely pick his brain too. Someone who actually uses their phone cameras like a camera, not like an average consumer basic idiot who only will like push the shutter button and doesn't know how to set up a frame, because you've got to train your boyfriends to be good for your social media pictures, right, ladies? You got to train your boyfriends, and now your Pixel can train your boyfriends because no one knows how to take pictures. Get it? We got Gadget Goddess kind of coming in, waving a hand. Unfortunately, I'm doing this on the Restream chat, so no one knows. I have no idea what you shared there, but I'm glad to see you. What's up, GG? So far it looks like Pixel 10. Someone wants to chat about the Realme concept with the 15,000 milliamp hour battery. We can circle back to that, but I do want to jump in here first. JGJ's just asking the question for everybody in the chat. Do we want to talk about bad news first or decent news first? I think most people are saying Pixel 10. So here's Abhishek. Brim is saying Pixel 10. Georgie's saying we could just stay on the subject of Brian. We could just keep talking about your dog. Paltrax is saying there was a Pixel launch, so apparently he needs to know about the Pixel launch. Barry Johnson is saying AI rumor that Gemini will replace some of Siri's functions. We could roll that into the Pixel conversation. Juan Carlos is saying the Pixel 10 flop. So I think generally, even if it's adjacent commentary to Google Gemini and the Pixel, I think we're going to start with the Pixel launch. Let me get that out of the way here. And get that out of the way there. Simon says, Hypno, misandry is as unattractive as misogyny. So I really don't have good guides or good examples. Like, I don't have a whole series of websites that I can like just throw up on screen. At this point, I don't want to revisit the video and watch it again. I was really lucky. So the Pixel launch event is firing up, and I get a very last minute email from Ron Richards. Ron Richards is one of the hosts over at Android Faithful. And I've known Ron, it is ridiculous to me. I've known Ron for well over a decade. And before then, I was an enormous fan of his work all the way back to the Revision 3 podcasting days. Ron is such a good dude. And Ron is one of those dudes where I genuinely disagree with most of Ron's stances on things like accessories, consumer electronics, audio, headphones, what we consider progress. And Ron and I it's like one of the few people I know I just tremendously consistently disagree with, and we can sit there and laugh at each other the entire time we're hanging out. You know, when you have one of those friends, he's like, for him, it's like Bluetooth and wireless, and I want this, and I want to go and just get rid of this, and if it's done, get rid of it. And me, I'm all about legacy. I want expandable storage, and I want headphone jacks. And like the second we get on camera together, we're cracking up because we know how into this stuff the other person is. See, and to me, that's one of the problems I have with a lot of Google's current strategies is I disagree with Ron, but I believe Ron. And I believe Ron is authentic. And Ron, I think, knows that I'm not doing this as some kind of old man shtick, that I genuinely am passionate about this. And if we can't laugh at each other, then what are we doing? So Ron hits me up and says, hey, we were going to try and do this, and then this fell apart, and then we were going to try and do another live stream, and then that fell apart. And unfortunately, our friend Jason got COVID. And wasn't able to hit the show floor like they were wanting to be able to do some kind of hands-on coverage with Jason. And so it was like, hey, it's going to be me and Flo Ion. Would you want to join us just to sort of MST3K the Google launch event? And I immediately jumped on that because my plan for the Google launch event was going to be me on Discord, kind of like rage live tweeting, but only on like what do you call that on, what do you call live tweeting when you're doing it on a private Discord? Live discording? Live commenting? It was just going to be me in a little side room off one of the main topics on my Discord, quietly to myself and maybe 3 other people going, what are we doing? Geez, Google, why? Keyboard warrior, keyboard warrior. So it's Ron, Flo, and I. And Flo and I get along really well too, because I feel like we both share a lot of that same liberal guilt. We're definitely lefty leaning, and we wear that kind of passion on our sleeves. We can get kind of sensitive about it, but she's also got a really kind of consistent fun snark to her. And as soon as this event started, all 3 of us kind of found things where one of us would at least try to play devil's advocate. And it wasn't always one person. So Ron played devil's advocate when we were talking about some of the AI features, and I played devil's advocate when we were talking about some of the translation features, and Flo played devil's advocate, I think, when she was talking about some of the watch and health features. And it was just really interesting to me how little meat there was on the bones of this event, but I was really grateful to be actually talking, in active conversation with 2 other people, and how many opportunities there were just to kind of talk through the show. Because the show had so many parts that I think could have been really fun. And I think Google completely dropped the ball on achieving what they were trying to do. Let's talk about what they were trying to do, because I think we would all agree what they were trying to do. So Google, this is the 10th Pixel. However you want to count different generations of phones, this is Pixel 10. This is the big double-digit number. My daughter is going to be turning 10 in October. Let me tell you, we're going to be blowing out that birthday, right? 10 is a big deal. When the iPhone hit the 10th proper generation of the iPhone, not if you count it's not the 10th iPhone because you had the 4s and then the 4S's and then the 5s and then the 5S's. Totally understand. But in terms of this is a unique generation of iPhone that we're calling the 10th, Apple went big with the iPhone X. And immediately I can feel fanboy shill energy whenever I bring that up. And the retort is, well, that was a very different time. Apple could do something big and exciting for the phone because it was a very different time. And it was a different time because they could do something different with hardware and they wanted to do something exciting. And I think that's total BS. Apple changed up the form factor to the modern version of the iPhone that we have today. They made a big deal out of it. They teased it. They brought in influencers. Recode. The editor-in-chief on Recode went like total dog whistle racist in calling out influencers who were, brown and black for getting early hands-on access to do sort of influencer posts and influencer content on the iPhone. He didn't have any issues with magazines and white influencers. It was just the black and brown people that he was really upset about because they weren't dignified, you see. The white people doing the exact same kinds of influencer things, that was totally fine. But it was a big deal. People were reacting. It was a massive change. And this is where I keep coming back to the idea. I thought I had it over here. Oh, it's on my table. It's not on my desk. My problem is Google is showing us how little forethought they have when it comes to things like consumer reactions and what gets techies excited and what gets consumers excited. And I feel they've made a critical device misstep. I was just recently talking, just a little bit ago, I was telling you, like, hey, we used to have the iPhone 4 and then we get the 4S. And I would tell my viewers, if you want the best iPhone, you should really wait for the S. Every single time there's a problem with a major design change, it's fixed on the S. The S gets better cameras. The S gets a more powerful processor. Like, the S is really the better phone. But we've kind of trained the excitement that the new iPhone shape is what gets people really lit up. iPhone 6, bendy and fragile. iPhone 6S, still internally fragile, but less bendy. iPhone 4, antenna gate. iPhone 5, construction, piecing, rattling buttons and keys. Every S fixed the previous iPhone. So I can't believe Google doesn't know what's happening over like a 2-year strategy. But we were pretty confident that the Pixel 10 was going to get a new chip from TSMC's foundry instead of Samsung. So that's already, for nerds, we're already seeing, that comes with a pretty significant improvement in CPU performance, just like we saw with Qualcomm. When we moved from Samsung foundry to TSMC, we got an incredible improvement to performance per watt. Just night and day difference. From the 8 Gen 1 to the 8 Plus Gen 1, it's like they're different species of chips. But what's going to get more excitement from consumers? And it's the shape. We can't fight this consumer idea that this is a big deal, this is a big change for the product, and the shape of the product changed. So I really feel Google should have kept the sort of rounder, softer, bubblier, friendlier curves on the Pixel 8. This should have been the Pixel 9. And then you've got so much more to talk about when you go to the Pixel 10 and it's flatter and it's harder edged and it's more professional and it's more durable and it's got a new chip and it's going to get better battery life and it gets a bigger battery and the radios and all of this. This should have been our Pixel 9, Pixel 10. So what are we talking about? The 10th Pixel, major redesign, major new chip, new. And you can litter advertisements with the phone, that the phone is new. And when we watch that presentation, it's Ron, Flo, and I, we're making fun of this presentation so much because there's so little really shared about the phones. Google strategically missed this incredible opportunity to do the Pixel 10 right. And instead, we're getting the Pixel 9S. And I think a lot of techies are kind of feeling like, well, what is this then? Yeah, I mean, the CPU might get a little more powerful and the GPU might get a little weaker. I'm kind of in the same place I was. Why would I flip a Pixel 9 to a Pixel 10? So then, while strategically I feel Google has made this critical misstep in how they can generate excitement, tease a device, get people really lit up, really looking at what the future of a Pixel might be, their presentation just fell into that weird trap. And they're not unique to this. And we can obviously bring up numerous keynotes from Apple, from Samsung that have been problematic. But they wanted to do something big, spend a lot of money, try and make a spectacle and do something fun. And actually, I applaud the energy. I applaud the attempt. I think we're all, rationally, if we're looking at this and we're not just crazy Google fanboys, or if your livelihood doesn't depend on affiliate links and a relationship with Google so that they send you free stuff, I feel like a lot of us would be critical of the execution. You have a host like Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon looked tired because it was kind of a midday presentation for him, and he's a late night talk show host. But you have Jimmy Fallon, and so many of the situations that you put Jimmy Fallon into were to sit there and to get talked at by someone at Google. Now, Jimmy Fallon is really good at fake laughing his way through interviews and anecdotes and funny little stories from celebrities. But after a point, even Jimmy Fallon can't fake laugh his way through yet another conversational exchange about how incredible AI is going to be. Or one of the best moments, if you go back and rewatch the keynote, is when they're bringing up different technologies and how we can communicate better, and this is what Pixel is, and we're not afraid to say iPhone on the stage, which is BS. I don't know what that moment was supposed to be. But he's point blank asked, oh, and RCS. Do you know what RCS is? And it was the most human reaction from Jimmy, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. No, I don't know what RCS is. Like, you could see he had actually checked out of this whole, like, trying to keep up the facade moment of just jargon, AI, googly stuff, and just gave up. Like, I don't know. What is it? You've got a story. Obviously, you're going somewhere. There's a teleprompter. You're going to tell us what it is. I don't know. But so many of those moments, for all the people saying like, oh, he had such great chemistry, and oh, such good energy, and this is so new and fresh. Really look at what Jimmy Fallon is doing. Like, halfway through so many of these segments, he's kind of rocking back on his heels. He's kind of looking consternation face around, and he's starting to do the I don't know what to do with my hands thing. We spent the entire hardware announcement sitting at a giant table, QVC style. And you know what? QVC can be fun. QVC can be kind of wild. There's like that little bit of live TV unpredictability to QVC. I love doing low budget live local TV. I used to be on Fox LA a lot, talking about tech and products. And if you've ever seen a TV show about TV, they're not doing this justice. It is mad, wild, crazed energy up to the moment before you're on camera. Everything is failing. Nothing is working. Hey, we want to do this thing about smartphone cameras, and we're trying different adapters to plug in so we can get a video feed through the camera and show the software. None of it works. And then in 30 seconds, I've got to go on live TV talking to one of the largest metropolitan consumer markets in the United States and talk about your smartphone camera, and nothing works. So here's a TV. We pulled out a TV because we can't get a feed and this HDMI adapter doesn't work. And oh, and also here's how you can like get better pictures from your iPhone. It is one of the most addictive thrills you can have. It's tightrope walking without a net. And you have Jimmy Fallon on there. And I have to believe that every night on The Tonight Show, something is about to catastrophically fail. And it's partly his job to make sure it doesn't fail. Even if what they want to do completely fails, they still have to put on a show, and they still have to fill that time, and they still have to vamp, they still have to make it work. And you have someone like Jimmy Fallon sitting at a table, and it could have been big fun QVC energy, but you watch that piece and he's standing behind the table holding his hands because I'm sure he doesn't know what he can touch. Do you realize how, like, you've handcuffed Jimmy Fallon? You paid all this money for an experienced late night talk show host who lives in chaos, and you told him, well, don't worry, we'll just tell you all about all the phones and the watches and the earbuds. So we're just gonna talk at you, and then you just try to be charming and funny. Are you telling me they couldn't come up with a wacky camera challenge with Jimmy Fallon? Are you telling me they couldn't come up with a wacky AI assistant challenge with Jimmy Fallon? And Jimmy Fallon, I'm sure, would have thrived in an event where unpredictability might have been experienced. Like, the only moment where they tried something and it kind of failed and they knew it probably wouldn't work, there was a moment where he was kind of like shaking his head to try and, ignore a call. And you're like, and it kind of didn't work, right? So that was sort of a joke, and it was kind of played into a cut, like, oh, we can't show people, like, our products don't work. And you're like, no, see, that's kind of the era we live in right now, is no one has a lot of trust in their phones. There's so much AI, and there's so much slop, and there's so much, misdirection. I'm getting misinformation from my Google search results. And you could kind of lean into the security of someone who's able to kind of laugh at themselves and bring Google into a space where Google could laugh at itself and show, like, hey, this is really fun and this is what we're doing and we're going to do something wacky with it. It probably won't work. Let's see what it comes up with. And that would have been earnest, authentic energy. That would have been a fun presentation. It would have utilized Jimmy Fallon's talents. Instead, we get to the camera section, and there's nothing to share about the Pixel cameras. The Pixel cameras are either staying the same, or if you're on a Pixel 10, like, you're getting more cameras, but they might not be better cameras than what you had on the Pixel 9. The hardware matters, and Google is desperately trying to convince us that chip performance, camera sensor technology, optics, none of that matters because we can AI our way out of all of these situations. So the big demo presentation was, I don't even know who this woman is, the podcast Call Her Daddy. I know Flo had very strong opinions on the character of this individual, and I just am not aware of her existence. And they have her lead a guided camera composition feature segment where the Pixel can now coach you into taking better photos. And so you hold up your camera and AI scans the scene. You're waiting for the phone to scan the scene, and then it pops up these little, like, things that you can do. And you're like, for that to be a useful feature, you have to have no thoughts, no expectations, and no desires for the kind of photo that you want to capture. And I don't know many people who make the effort to pull a phone out of their pocket or purse, point it at a subject, and then go, but I have no idea what I'm trying to do here. My daughter's wearing this cute outfit and she wants me to take a photo of it, so let me pull out my phone, and I don't know. Do I point it at her? Maybe that's where I should start. Okay, so I'll point the phone at my daughter. Okay, cool. Now what? Like, I'm so tired of, and I think Google is really leaning into the idiocy of their users, but I think this is kind of pervasive across the "it just works" kind of commentary from Apple, and also Samsung gets into this sometimes too. I actually have to say something nice about Samsung here, where Samsung, for as much as they wildly try to copy Apple on some of their worst, on Apple's worst business trends, they've still somehow managed to keep, like, a fingertip grip on the wall of wacky and sort of overkill professional grade features. Like, If I shoot a RAW file on a Pixel, the Pixel manual mode lies to you. It's not really a manual mode RAW image. But if I go into the expert camera mode and the RAW mode and the professional mode on a Galaxy, I have like overkill, legit controls for how that image might come out. I don't love Samsung processing, and I think their full resolution shots look like garbage. But if I want a classic DNG, a classic RAW file, and I want to control that image, I can do that better on a Galaxy than I can on a Pixel. But I digress. We're sitting there, and this podcaster is leading this demo of the camera coach, and they have Jimmy Fallon kind of sit on a couch, and then he just sort of sits there while they move the phone around, and then they take the photo and they show him, and you're like, yeah, it's a photo of me. That's cool. And you're like, what would have happened if you have Jimmy Fallon? What would have happened if he had like jumped up on the couch and was standing on the couch? What if you had Jimmy Fallon in any other venue where he could do something, and then you could try and demonstrate like this is what the phone's going to try and do? Like, as much as I love to take nice portraiture of my daughter, most of the photos are candid and sports. She's a softball player. She loves tennis. She loves volleyball. She's a little aspiring athlete, and I want to get that slide of her coming into home plate. I like taking photos of her just being an absolute goof on the monkey bars. She started watching American Ninja Warrior. I'm trying to convince her to not be an American Ninja Warrior. I'm probably gonna fail. But when she's flying through the air to grab a twisting bar that's gonna spin as soon as she grabs it, is my Pixel gonna wait? Like, oh, well, I can see it's a child flying through the air. You know what you should do is turn the phone 13 degrees so it's off axis, and then you're gonna get what we call a Dutch angle, and then the moment's gone. What is a camera coach gonna do for me in a moment where I'm trying to get an interesting shot of someone in movement or in action, or a candid photo, two people going in for a hug and a laugh, you know, a hearty handshake, and you see one person's reaction? Like, to me, those moments are invaluable, and I'm sitting there looking at my phone screen because I'm obviously too dumb to frame or compose a photo. Oh, I see there's someone sitting perfectly still on a couch. Maybe you should angle your phone a little bit lower. Cool. I'm so glad this is an AI query that is taking up processing power on my device, and we still don't know exactly what the division is in labor. Is this coach really living on device, in which case it's gonna drain my battery even faster as I'm using the camera and the screen at max brightness? Or is this something that is actually sending something up to a data center to analyze the scene? And that way I also need a 5G radio cranking at max, and I'm waiting on the analysis to come back down that 5G data connection. And that's going to burn even more electricity in a data center and fresh water and all that nonsense. I don't get it. So let me take just a little bit of a break here because I've seen some comments and stuff popping up, but I'm really frustrated because Google has had an entire year to sort of plan and strategize what the 10th Pixel was going to be. And for most of their presentation on the 10th Pixel was an afterthought. Because it was Gemini this and AI that and coaching this and Veo that. And none of that's the phone. Google knows they have the most expensive, worst performing, ultra priced device. There are ultra phones from Vivo and Xiaomi that are going to radically undercut the price of a Pixel and do it with exceedingly better hardware in almost every single category, from camera sensors to battery to charging tech. They have satellite connectivity in some regions now too. There is no point where the Pixel wins at the same price or at a higher price. And so I feel it's like Google is desperately just trying to run over, oh yeah, I mean, hardware, pfft, who cares about specs? But they're not bringing anything to the hardware that gives them a win. The Pixel 7 brought unique performance to the table and undercut the price of the Galaxy S series. Not the S, I mean, obviously the S Ultra, but I would have said the Pixel 7 Pro was an incredible competitor against, what was that, the S22? Do I have that right? I might be a generation off. Regardless, it undercut the price of an S Plus with better camera hardware and faster performance in CPU-bound tasks. I feel like that is an incredible example of what a Pixel can bring to the table. The Pixel 10 is way more expensive than a Galaxy S or an S Plus, is now very close to the price of a Galaxy S Ultra, and doesn't bring any of the benefits that an S Ultra will bring. It will lose almost every single fight it faces against an S Ultra dollar for dollar. But you know what they're really excited about are AI features that almost every other Android phone will get. So I really don't see the market. Who is the right fit for a Pixel Pro? Pixel 10 and Pixel A, I can still see, okay, there are still some people out there. I think this is going to be a good recommendation. We have to be really careful about Google batteries. But the Pixel Pros increasingly make no sense to me in the market. My OnePlus 12, not my OnePlus 13, my OnePlus 12 is probably going to stomp the crap out of the Pixel 10 Pro XL. And it will have done so a year earlier and $400 cheaper. And so I have to question, what is Google's strategy when we're talking about hardware right now? Let me take a little drink of coffee here. I've got comments. We've got comments. I've already lost 20% of my viewers. From Mr. Maug, I always saw the iPhone 10 as Apple playing catch up, but adding an Apple tax to it. It was, you can go into the court documents. The iPhone X was absolutely a way to normalize significantly higher prices on the iPhone. Because look at, it was the Galaxy S8 Plus. Someone was trying to tell me like, oh, well, yeah, you had to make the phone more expensive because like Face ID was probably more expensive. But they also got rid of Touch ID. So they got rid of one part and replaced it with another. Face ID probably is more expensive to implement than Touch ID. But that same year, the Galaxy S8 Plus, I think, was an $800 phone that had iris scanning and a fingerprint sensor. I think comparable, if not better, camera hardware. Someone will have to correct. I want to say it had a larger sensor than the iPhone 10, but I can't remember. I mean, like, point for point for point for point. The Galaxy S8 Plus was a better phone that cost $200 less. It wasn't just a radical different shape, because the iPhone 10 was a radical different shape than the iPhone 8. Barry says, great point. And basically, he's just correct on everything I say. I don't know what he was responding to. So from Mr. Maug, I wish they talked more about the battery life improvements on the Pixel 10. I feel Google is actively trying to avoid battery conversations. The A series have had not a lot of luck lately with battery updates. In fact, I woke up this morning with an email. I still have my old Reddit account, even though I deleted my subreddit, the Glowing Rectangles subreddit. Well, I didn't delete it, but I locked it so that it wasn't getting new submissions and new traffic. But I got an email from Reddit, and like the top post on one of the Pixel phones was someone complaining. I think it was their Pixel 7a. Was it their 7a? I think it was the Pixel 7a. They were inquiring about a battery replacement, and that Google said, even though you meet this criteria, you don't meet that criteria. So we've really thought about it, and unfortunately, we just can't give you a battery replacement. But we're so happy you're an important part of the Pixel family. In the reply to a tech support request for service on their product to replace a battery that is encountering problems because of Google's manufacturing, they're using that, oh, but we're a family. We're a family of Pixel owners. And it was great because the person in the post was like I'm ever going to buy a Pixel ever again. So anything related to battery tech, I think they are super scared. I don't know that this is going to remain or if this is going to be consistent, but there are already confirmations from Google that the new battery throttling management is going to be baked into the Pixel 10, and after 200 charge cycles, you won't be able to deactivate it. So it will start to charge the phone slower. It will start to put more buffer in how much actual capacity is being utilized. And once that starts to degrade, it will also impact your CPU performance. Now, I want to point this out because 200 is not a lot of charge cycles. So let me pick this up right now. So here's my OnePlus 13. It's been charged exclusively, well, not exclusively, it's been charged a vast majority of its chargers on OnePlus fast charging. I do like to slum with the 45 watt warp chargers. They're just really good for everything. So a few charge cycles have been slower, but still way faster than what Samsung can do. And I just want to go in and see, because I can pull up my counter on my battery here. So I've had this phone, roughly 8 months, and I'm at 134 charge cycles on the OnePlus 13. So that means I'll probably be pretty close to 200 charges. As I just smashed the screen on my OnePlus 13. I'll probably be close to 200 charges in a year. And I feel a Pixel will probably hit that charge count number faster because Pixels have a smaller battery capacity than my OnePlus 13. So I think you'll get to 200 charges in a year pretty comfortably. And that means after your first year, the battery is already going to be artificially degraded. Whether or not your battery cell is a better cell, if it's performing well, once you hit that $200 charge limit, it's going to start reducing the effectiveness of your battery. So I feel like this is terrible. This is a very, very bad situation. And especially when we look at this, I put money down a $1,300 phone to run my coverage and reviews. And I'm basically going to spend my entire time with it saying, why would you buy this? Who is this for? I can't figure it out. But at 200 charge cycles, then it gets even worse. Yeah, it's great. You have 7 years of OS support and security patches, but your battery's going to need to be replaced like 3 or 4 times in that period of time. And I'm getting to the point, I really do believe, I do not have the data, but I really do believe the fast battery charging tech from Oppo and Xiaomi and Vivo, I feel that is actually better for battery wear and tear. Your battery charges faster, that puts a lot of strain on a battery cell, but it's run hot for a shorter period of time. And they're putting in much bigger batteries, so as the battery degrades, you have more buffer before it really starts to feel like your phone can't last a day. My OnePlus 13 still shows 100% battery health. I wouldn't expect under 200 charges for it to have fallen significantly, but you should start looking at your battery count. Like, is your phone starting to show a degraded battery health in the first year? Are you using fast charging properly with the first party fast chargers, or are you using slower charging and wireless charging? Because now your phone battery is going to degrade on 2 fronts. Going to degrade from the actual natural degradation of the battery cell, and it's going to degrade from companies like Google putting in charge limits on the total capacity of that battery. JGJ, thoughts on the Pixel Snap segment where they mentioned Apple MagSafe? I talked about this on the podcast. No, I didn't. I talked about this on Android Faithful. So my last visit on Android Faithful, I did bring this up. I mean, it's fine. I don't really use wireless charging. I think it's dumb. I think it's bad for your phone. I think it's bad for the environment. I think it's bad for energy. You're wasting it. And it might not affect you, but you had to spend more on pads. When those pads eventually give out and you throw them away, that's way more waste than throwing away a USB-C cable. I think wireless charging, I was a huge proponent of it back in the Nokia days. I thought this was going to evolve, become kind of like an air power kind of a thing. I thought it was going to be great. I was totally wrong. I think wireless charging is a scam. They sell you on convenience so that you buy more crap. Because when you have real fast charging, I wake up, my phone's at 30%, I plug it in, I go to the bathroom, I come back out, my phone's at 70%, and I get on with my day. And when I have a bigger battery, 70% is almost 2 sun up to sundown days of use. Wireless charging is crap. I hate it so much. It is a perfect example of fake problem. Oh, it's just so inconvenient to plug in your phone and you need to buy more pads and put a pad in your car. And now the pads are way inefficient. So we'll put magnets on the pads and the pads get even more expensive. And now your case needs magnets because you can't put your case on your phone with the magnets in your phone. You need the magnets in the case to go with the magnets in your phone or else it's less efficient. And it's all junk. It's all junk. This doesn't solve any real world problems, but it keeps the battery anxiety going because you're charging your phone the slowest way it can go. The slowest way you can charge a phone. So my big problem on Android Faithful was, if we're going to have this garbage, this literal hot garbage, I'm just tired of everyone coming up with their own brand name for it. This to me is what should be sort of regulated, and it needs to be the bigger comment, is we have Pixel Snap and we have MagSafe. But all of the stuff that goes into those brandy names has been adopted by Qi 2. And Qi 2 has different certifications. I think we're at spec 2.2 now. Kind of like Bluetooth, right? We're at Bluetooth 5.4. Your phone has Bluetooth, but it might have Bluetooth 4 if it's older. And there are newer technologies that get adopted into the specification, and that's what helps consumers know parts and pieces. Will they look it up? Probably not, but the information is there. So the Pixel 10 Pro XL has Qi 2.2. The Pixel 10, the Pixel 10 Pro, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, they all have Qi 2.0.1. Is that mentioned in Pixel Snap? Is that covered in MagSafe? Do you know that you spent $1,000 on a phone without the most current spec for Qi 2 charging? No, you don't. Because it's another way to obfuscate and confuse consumers with different brand names and different compatibilities. And will my MagSafe work with my Pixel Snap and my Galaxy Stick? You know, like, it's all garbage. It's all marketing, branding garbage. If it's Qi 2, say that it's Qi 2. And if it's Qi 2 and you know a spec, tell me it's Qi 2 2.2. Right? If I talk about QC charging or PD charging or VOOC charging, I can tell you wattage. My laptop uses a 65 watt power delivery charger. PD, 65 watt. I know what I'm in for. QC 3.0, I know what I'm in for. Super VOOC, a little less so. It's probably 80 watt or 90 watt. And in the United States, it might be 80 watt. And in Europe, it might be 100 watt. But I kind of know what I'm in for. Pixel Snap versus MagSafe, it's a stupid way to confuse you to buy more accessories and to buy more expensive cases. So you can charge your phone slower and run your battery hotter over a longer period of time. This is terrible for consumers, this is terrible for enthusiasts, this is bad for the environment, and it's bad for e-waste. I'm way behind. This chat is like way ahead of me here. Farhan, the last time I saw Jimmy Fallon talk about tech in his show, there was Linus Sebastian in X-Real glasses. Simon says, if no, that's really funny. I'm not going to say it on the show. We are, what, 1 hour and 24 minutes into the live stream. Catch what Simon Says Hypno said at 1 hour and 24 minutes. So from Skizrekizekizol, they are selling it to the common man, Johns and other does, not to the super ultra pro nerds that say V50 in their every second sentence. So who is benefiting from a $1,300 phone, and why are you okay with the common Joes getting a $1,300 phone that does less than every other manufacturer's $1,300 phone? And when I talk to the common Joes and the common folk, I mention things like performance versus battery life. When I show them a OnePlus, every single time, without fail, that I put a OnePlus in someone's hands, they freak out about the charging. When I sold people on Motorola's at $400 with 67-watt chargers, they freaked out on the battery life and the charging. So this does not hold water. Who is a $1,300 phone for when we know the sales numbers on phones above $1,000 are way less than 10% of the overall smartphone market? Who is the average Joe, basic knuckle dragging, dumb, basic person who is ready to drop $1,300 on a Google? It's not going to bring them status. No one cares if you have an expensive Android, so it's not a status purchase. It's not a performance purchase, because if you care about spending $300 more than $1,000 on a phone, you either care about status or performance. I know I want to drop the most money I possibly can on something that is just kind of for basic folks. And if we can't get over that cognitive dissonance in tech review land, that we're not making these videos for consumers. We're making these videos for other enthusiasts who like to watch videos about tech. So the audience I want are the people that help guide their family and friends in making purchasing decisions. There is no one in my family I can recommend a Pixel Pro to who I wouldn't recommend a OnePlus 2 first. If I believe what they tell me about what they want on their phone, the Pixel does none of it. If I believe them when they say I want better battery life, I loved it when I had that fast charging, I want good cameras, OnePluses have great cameras, for their needs and their wants, they'll get better performance with faster charging, reasonable length of updates, probably past the actual hardware life of the phone, on a OnePlus 13R. And if I'm putting a OnePlus 13R against a Pixel 10 non-Pro, that's a great fight. But also, I have a couple family members on Pixel 6As and 7As. My dad had a Pixel 5A. My brother before had a Pixel 4A. Phones that have now had significant battery problems, recalls needed. I haven't had any of those issues on my OnePluses. My mom, her OnePlus 6T is still in great shape. It could still be a fine phone today. She only recently flipped it the beginning of this year with a OnePlus 11. We don't have the same longevity of experience in my family talking about the cheaper Pixels. So I'm not going to sit here and say, but average consumers who don't exist. In what market would you say less than 1/10 of a market is average, is an average? I don't know. I grew up in grade school learning about averages. When do I round up a number? Oh, when it's above 5. What are we doing? I don't think this is I don't think that this example, well, they're just trying to reach out to people who don't care about tech. Then why make the show? What are you trying to promote? And if you were making this show for people who genuinely didn't care about tech and only wanted to hear about lifestyle and trying to turn the Pixel into a lifestyle product, not a tech product, then you needed to do a completely different job of using Jimmy Fallon in that show. You let Jimmy Fallon just go wild and people will watch the show and be entertained, and it's really just branded marketing messaging from Google, and that would have been great. Having Jimmy Fallon just sit there and get talked at was also the wrong way to approach all of the other non-tech people who might have tuned into this. And I think it's telling because the numbers on this weren't great during the live stream, in concurrent viewership, but getting to the end of it, we finished that show, and I think it got less viewership than like a WWDC keynote. So the audience for this is not enormous. You can double or triple that view count when it's an Apple product announcement. New iPhone coming, extra zero at the end of that viewership versus WWDC. Google, in their 10th Pixel, could not beat the viewership numbers on a WWDC, spending money on Jimmy Fallon. So they didn't reach average basic people, or at least they didn't reach very many. From Barry Johnson, what is so strange is the fact most of the camera engineers shoot in RAW. It's like, guys and gals, give us true RAW performance. It drives me crazy. You do not get a real RAW file out of the Pixel unless you switch to another camera app. It's all stacked DNG. It's already processed. It's already been cleaned up, noise reduction, filtered, and you don't actually get to set the ISO and shutter. It gives you the equivalent of what it thinks that would look like. And I can't shoot like that. It's really bad. From Bionic Scoop, Candids don't need a coach. They need reliable function. Candid photos, man. I'm telling you, if you want to get real good at photography, get a phone like a Vivo X200 Pro or a Xiaomi with that real big telephoto sensor, or the Oppo, that real big telephoto sensor. And it's like you suddenly have night vision. Set it into action mode, drop your exposure, a third stop down, a half stop down, and like you're at a family gathering and it's cozy indoor lighting, living room lighting. It's really dark, especially at Christmas. You get like that warm glow from the tree, but the house is actually kind of dark, and two people go in for a hug, and you just snatch that moment across the room. Across the room. You're not putting your phone in their face, you're trying to be discreet, and you send that to someone, and they're gonna flip out. That moment looks amazeballs. And like, what camera did you shoot that with? You must have a really nice camera. And Scoop will know the pain of hearing, you must have a really nice camera to take such good pictures. Because it's really just like, I took a second to figure out the modes and settings and features and options on this. And now I'm apparently a camera genius. Farhan just reminding us, even the 8K video upscaling needs to rely on cloud servers. Like, come on. But don't worry, the Jonas Brothers shot a totally real, organic, authentic music video, like with no help and no equipment, just on their Pixels. Please ignore the shots in the music video where they're holding really obvious, like, production equipment, like camera cages. Because they really just totally organically shot a music video in 8K on the Pixel, and it looks not great. From Mr. Maug, it's really unfortunate how underutilized our NPUs are. On the bright side, I hear the ROG Xbox Ally X is going to use its NPU for upscaling. Wish our devices would do the same. We do need some consistency there. Like, I've got the Surface Laptop 7 right in front of me here, and the apps that are starting to use that little NPU do like a subject selection in Affinity. It is wild how fast that little NPU can in real time figure out different borders and shapes and people and grass and stuff like that. It's really good. And what we need to do is standardize. Like, how do you get information into and out of a coprocessor when there is kind of a random element in a lot of machine learning hardware? And once we can kind of merge some of those ideas together, the NPU is going to become even more utilized, even more a valuable part of the phone. I think we did it right. Back in the early Huawei days, you would hold your phone up and it could recognize, I'm looking at a landscape, you'd see a little landscape icon. I'm looking at a flower, you'd see a little flower icon. I'm looking at a pet, you'd see a little puppy dog head. Like, that was the right place to start. And now we need to start seeing where else we can utilize. Speech to text is another one. If it's tapping the NPU and you're doing it locally on device, I don't have to worry about a data connection. I can get transcripts and summaries and real-time translation between different languages. That's, again, to me, that stuff is like magic. That's like science fiction magic to me. And that was the one part of the Google keynote that I actually got lit up on, because they're not just translating English to Spanish or Spanish to English, they're taking the voice that was speaking in English and then using the same tone, character, and inflection to translate to Spanish. That's wild. That's scary. That's crazy to me if that really will work the way it does. And if it can work on device without using like data as part of the translation, that's going to blow my mind. Like that to me would be one of the things I'll hold up. Like Google, keep doing stuff like this. I think that's amazing. But Google, I think, has lost their crown to talk about any kind of photography superiority. They've lost their crown on the Pixel 7 Pro to talk about performance and performance per price. It's just really disappointing to see. They raised prices and their products are so much more expensive and they aren't comparable. They are not hitting beat for beat on other ultra tier devices that very few people actually buy. Actually, that's a fair question to put in from the chat, and I can't pronounce your name, and I'm so sorry, because I came down really hard on your comment, and I didn't mean to pick on you there. Guys, who do you think from the big three will first crack and get a big new tech battery? And in the past, I would have said Google, but now I don't know. It might be Samsung licensing different battery tech because they're trying to make thin a big feature. And we're hoping that the Galaxy S26 will finally have a larger main camera sensor, which means it cuts into the space on the inside of the phone. So if they still want a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, they've got to go with a different kind of battery tech, a silicon carbon battery, something, to get that space. My guess now would be Samsung. A couple years ago, I would have said Google would have been all over it. We just got to wait for their Samsung partnership to end. And then I think Google will explore some other strategic partnerships with other manufacturers. Right now, I think Google is really set on how can we charge iPhone-like money for not iPhone-like performance. So I don't know. I think Samsung is probably the best bet if I were a betting man. Let me see, I'm way behind. Georgie, Google knows they have Apple-like fans, so they know Pixel 10 will sell well, especially when you have great trade-ins in the US. So the perception is that. I don't know that the numbers have really caught that, though. So for all that we're talking about, like, yeah, I think Google is moving more of their consumers up. Like people who are on A series, maybe they're going to the numbers. People who are on the numbers, maybe they're considering the Pro. But I want to say Google in the United States is between 4 and 6% of the market, depending on what analyst you talk to. And Motorola is the healthiest number 3. And they're above 10%. Again, I've seen estimates from analysts between 10 and 15% of the United States market. So even when we talk about the most successful Pixels being Pixel A series devices, cheap Motorola's crush Pixel A. It's like it's not close. So this whole idea like, oh yeah, right now, what we see is the effect that I have been telling you on this show for 400 episodes of this podcast now, is that it's marketing and perception. Microsoft did this right. They came out with the Surface Pro, and it was a tablet that ran Windows. And they got mocked ruthlessly because Windows 8 was garbage. And oh, the battery life on this tablet sucks and you can get better performance for less money. And then they came out with the Surface Pro 2, and all of those people, John Rettinger included, right before the launch of the Surface Pro 2, went back. And wouldn't you know it, guys? You know, there were some things that I missed on the Surface Pro, and there are some things that are actually quite elegant when we look at what Microsoft had done. Because Microsoft doubled and tripled down on incredible marketing spends. Does the Surface line represent the most significant source of Windows PC sales? I would be shocked if it were top 5. Someone please look up, I literally don't know this information, look up Surface PC sales in a chart against Lenovo, Dell, HP, Asus, Acer, all of the other brands. And let me know, maybe I have this wrong. Maybe the Surface has finally cracked into the top 5 of Windows PC sales, but I doubt it. But they spent so much money on marketing that tech reviewers couldn't help but appreciate how good this stuff is now, guys, because the marketing was leading consumers to look up information on these products. The tail wags the dog. Google has never spent more on marketing the Pixel since the launch of the Pixel 6 Pro. And we went from kind of a hobbyist, grassroots, we'll let YouTubers talk about it, it'll get slaughtered by The Verge, because The Verge really cared about camera sensor sizes on the Galaxy on the iPhone, but oh, the Pixel, it's not making sensors bigger. Oh, that's not good enough for us, except for the iPhone 12 had the same size camera sensor at almost twice the price, but that doesn't matter because it's Apple, and Apple's the bestest. Google flipped that. Now they spend a lot more. We're estimating somewhere in the ballpark of over $1 billion a year marketing their hardware, the made by Google stuff. And now that's leading consumers to look up more information. So we're seeing that topic lift because of the marketing. And now all of these reviewers know, like, oh, well, I'll get traffic on this video. I'll make more money. I can push more affiliate links. That's how this goes. Motorola isn't spending nearly as much on marketing, but they're outselling Pixel probably 3-1. And where are all the Moto fanboys? Where's the Team Moto? Where's my hashtag Team Moto? Hashtags. Hashtag. But the reality is consumers at that lower end still buying Motos. Overwhelmingly over Pixels. So it's not reflective of the actual consumer behavior. It's just the perception of the popularity of the product. You can almost perfectly predict a big, huge YouTube channel's review if you look up the marketing data first. Who spent the most on marketing? Where will I see the most consumer interest because of the marketing? That product gets a good review. Time and time and time and time again. I don't know how to keep spelling this out. It is so utterly predictable. Google is not the third place in the United States. I know they're beating OnePlus. Kudos. Oh, Abhishek, I need to look up local pricing for you. The Galaxy A series is still good value for the money in India, much better value than the S25 and S25 Plus, the equivalent of $350 to $500 US here. I mean, I totally believe you. I just feel from the last Galaxy A series that I picked up, and I know I'm doing this just because like I'm that really annoying guy who got to go to India once and now can't shut up about it, but like, over a Galaxy A series, I'd probably pick up the Lava. Like, this thing is awesome, and it has the little rear display. But all of the new recent Vivo phones, too. Over a Galaxy A series, I would absolutely go Vivo V. And if you like to take pictures of people, Vivo V can sometimes beat Vivo X. Like, they're really, really good phones. And I know they're probably a little bit higher priced in the mid-range market than Galaxy A, but I feel you'll get a really good bang for buck spending a little bit more on Vivo V than getting a good daily driver Galaxy A phone. Sorry, you didn't ask, and I just offered free advice. You probably don't care. It's fine. All right. Abhishek is also saying my Pixel 8a battery is horrible. It's not been a year. I'm thinking of either the OnePlus 13 or the S25 Ultra. I would absolutely try and go OP or Vivo. Look it up. Mr. Mag is saying I'm probably already at 200 charge cycles with my OnePlus 13, also mostly using the fast charger. I would have thought I was higher because I really do live out of the OnePlus 13. I'm not one of these people who reviews a OnePlus under embargo and then goes back to my Apple Watch and iPhone. I don't use Apple. I really don't use Samsung. I live out of the OnePlus. So I would have thought, yeah, I must be over 200 charges on my OnePlus. It's been like 8 months. Nah, the first time I checked it when I did that recap video, I was at like 126, something like that. So you might be fewer chargers in just because we don't have to charge our phone as frequently as like a Pixel might. There's literally no way for me to use my Pixel like I use my OnePlus because I can count on the OnePlus to charge so much faster. And Stevie Coleman is saying they did the exact same thing to my 6A and it's going to take 3 months for them to replace it. And I'm seeing people just get denied for replacements and service. So what is the point of 7 years of software if we can't count on a Pixel A series at least to get reasonable support to keep the battery running so you can get those 7 years of software updates? From Antonio Cunningham, while I don't use wireless charging, I need it because I don't have good long-term experience with USB-C ports. I've heard that mentioned quite a bit. I'm really trying to think, like, what was the last phone I felt I kind of jacked up that USB port? Because even my V60 is still charging really well. But, actually, to be fair, my V60 I charged mostly with the magnetic charging things. What's funny is I actually have my LG Velvet over here. So these little magnetic adapters that went on the V60 dual screen case, they were the same on the Velvet. So yeah, actually that's not fair, because I bet you if I had gone USB-C mostly on my V60, I probably would have tanked that USB port. But yeah, I mean, I can't account for the type of wear and tear that people put on products. But I will say, almost exclusively as my personal phone, the OnePlus 13 has proven reliable. And it's not like I'm going light on this phone. I am using it for everything. Imagine every week you had some new accessory that had a companion app that had to be installed on your phone. And I'm using it for all of those. I just broke 200 app installs on my OnePlus 13. That's too much. Yeah, Kyle, I'm not saying we should get rid of it. I like the option of wireless charging when there's... Oh, yeah, like I like the option of wireless charging when there's a headphone jack, but I've been using a OnePlus 12R for half a year and I haven't really missed it. And I feel like that's kind of the reality for all of the people that use actual real fast charging. Yeah, I mean, in an emergency, it would be nice if I had coils, but the vast majority of my daily usage, I just don't care. And especially for all those people who were like, it's a mandatory feature, you have to have coils. What about reverse wireless charging? Well, the Pixel 10 isn't going to support that because the magnets can kind of get in the way of reverse wireless charging. So if you want to reverse charge an accessory, you're back to plugging in a cable. You see how we keep getting sold on this one like niche example of a product feature that really isn't something you do a whole lot, and you could come up with other solutions to achieve, and then we act like that's a total deal breaker. Oh, I can't go with a OnePlus 12R. It's a more powerful phone which gets incredible battery life and has a reasonably good camera on it. I need reverse wireless charging for my earbuds. Well, then I guess you can't buy a Pixel 10 Pro either, can you? I guess you're done. Oh, Antonio's saying for his LG G7. Yeah, I mean, if I had put solo miles on an LG G7 or an LG G8, I could see that. Yeah, and I totally understand. I would also say this is indicative, not in consumer behavior. This isn't on you, Antonio. This is a problem I have with right to repair, is we're giving people the right to repair their gadgets, but we're not making the gadgets more repairable. So this needs to be an example of saying, hey, this is a component that gets a lot of wear and tear. This should be one of the easiest parts to replace on a phone. I should be able to go to any shop, and without them having a full diagnostic understanding of the LG G7, they should be able to pop off the back, go, oh yeah, there's a circuit board, let me pop this out and put in a new USB port. That should be a law. Oh, Mr. Maug. I finally saw the OnePlus 13R at Best Buy. I held it and used it, and it's definitely overkill for the average Joe. Such a great phone for $500 to $600 depending on a sale. So try not to buy it full MSRP, but the OnePlus 13R on a sale, oh my God, this thing is a monster. And you have cool little features like, oh, let me just mute my notifications with this little hardware switch that switches the notifications. And the cameras are finally good. They're not great. I think a Galaxy S25s, I mean a Galaxy S25 Plus could probably beat the cameras on the OnePlus 13R. You'd spend $400 more, but each of the cameras are finally useful cameras. So they finally got rid of that stupid macro shooter from the OnePlus 12R, which was useless. Never use those cameras, just do a 2x crop from the main camera. But now we have an okay telephoto, an okay ultra wide, and a really solid main camera sensor. At like $500, it is an embarrassing fight against a Pixel A series. But again, who's spending over $1 billion a year on marketing? Because it ain't OnePlus. Oppo is not putting that kind of money into attracting attention to a Chinese-made smartphone here. But the charging, the performance, oh man, it is so nice. But Justin, I just made that joke. I'm so far behind on the chat. You guys are coming up with these points as I'm making these jokes. Should there be any concerns over OnePlus's future availability in the US due to political reasons? I want a OnePlus 13R so bad, but I'm fearful. I had the 7T back in the day and it was great. And the only thing I can say to that is, I don't know, and only you can judge how concerned you might be about that eventuality. I feel the way that we saw the entities list go down on Huawei, that if you were to buy in to a OnePlus 13 today, and let's say worst case scenario, this December, we wrote up a whole new list of entities that were security threats and we pulled OnePlus from the United States. My Huawei phones were still doing okay. There's still regulations and support, and there are processes. It fell apart fast when Huawei finally got yanked and they weren't at Best Buy anymore and they had lost their AT&T contract. But like my Mate 10 Pro, I used in regular rotation for 2 years after that entire episode unraveled. So I can't guarantee. And carriers under the pressure of this administration might do something obnoxious like start saying, hey, Oppo just got pulled out of the United States. From now on, really, we're only going to allow phones that you buy from us on our networks. And that could be a bummer. I actually do believe that could be a potential outcome. But that's going to hurt so many people. And it's going to be wildly unpopular. And it's going to force a lot of people into like lower cost MVNOs, stuff like that. I can't say exactly what I think will happen. I think there are a lot of different directions things could happen, but I'm very skeptical that I'll be left in a situation where my phone is immediately DOA and I have to immediately go and shop another device and I don't have any recourse because I'm stuck with a brick that I can't sell. I think we're going to have a window, even if OnePlus is put on a list, that the consumers that have been doing business with the carriers back when OnePlus had carrier agreements, and now that we buy them directly, you can buy a OnePlus in a Best Buy. You can't just go and sell any product in a Best Buy. You have to have fulfillment, you have to have contracts, you have to be able to negotiate. There were FCC docs on these devices being used in the country to get certifications. I don't think they're just going to kill everything if OnePlus goes away. It just means that, let's say this happens and you're worried about the next 2 to 3 years of using that phone, your resale value is gonna plummet. It's just gonna fall off a cliff. But it's not like our phones held such great resale value anyway. From Vazikos, what if an average consumer wants a nice telephoto lens in a phone? I ask because my normie friends ask this for capturing their kids' activities. So it's tricky. Let's say you're shooting action. I think you would get the best results on a OnePlus. Unless you are in stonking bright like early afternoon, 2 in the afternoon, where the sun's at a slight angle and the sun is in your kid's face so that they are illuminated properly, I still feel the Pixel's HDR processing gets in the way of capturing the best action, but it's okay at unblurring that action. Whereas on Oppo, and I think Oppo is actually the closest to a Pixel in terms of sort of holding your hand, of it being a full auto shooter. If you go and you touch the little running guy icon on your OnePlus, it sets it up into action mode. You don't need to leave the auto mode. It's a part of the auto mode. But you touch the little action guy and your photos come out a little less HDR-y, but it is really good at freezing action, and that sensor is pretty good at going from a 3x zoom to a 6x crop. If that's what we're saying, objectively, I want to capture action shots of my kids, I think an action mode on a phone is better than an unblurring post-processing mode. And that's my opinion. If you're talking about I hate using these phrases, average consumer, normie, basic. I do this to make fun of how people talk about consumers. I purposely go out of my way to exaggerate the knuckle dragging, mouth breathing, oh, but what about the basic average people? Because that's a joke. You know, that's, what was that? It was Blazing Saddles? You know, the real salt of the earth people. You know, morons. It's Mel Brooks, guys. I'm trying to do Mel Brooks. I'm not doing it well. If you're telling me that they want to pick up a phone and they want to pose people and have nice portraits and get like that really good, like contrasty, kind of everything's bright and everything's dark and nothing is bright and nothing is dark, but the pixel processing works really well on social media. Those shots really do kind of pop on Instagram. I think the pixel is great when you can pose your subject. But again, like if you're telling me about different styles of photography, you might even want to shop a OnePlus 12. Like the macro performance on the OnePlus 12 beats the OnePlus 13, and I'm definitely repeating myself now. Oh, and my recommendation there was in the United States. Out of the United States, Vivo, Xiaomi, Oppo, Honor, all of them better photography solutions. From Mr. Maug, almost every Amazon delivery driver is using a Motorola phone. I think this helps contribute to Motorola's big percentage in the US. It absolutely does. But again, why isn't Google trying to encourage those kinds of contracts and negotiations, right? We know Amazon is going to be getting rid of the Fire OS and the Fire tablet. They're getting rid of their App Store. Excuse me. So that's an opportunity for Google to come in and say, well, what if we switched over and we did this and we did that and we helped you out with these products? And I bet you there's someone who's probably looking at down to the penny. If we put cheap Motorola's in our drivers' hands, they'll perform better than cheap Pixels. But you see how that actually is evidence that points to an eventuality. A Motorola phone in an Amazon truck is a device that's probably getting constantly hammered by car charging in hot conditions, hanging off a windshield in someone's truck. Now, the cheap Pixels are having battery problems. Do we think Amazon is likely to switch over a manufacturing partner and go from Motorola to Pixel? I don't think so. And you can get Motorola phones cheaper than a comparably performant Samsung phone. So isn't that a win-win? Shouldn't we be saying, hey, if you want a really dirt, inexpensive, daily driver communication device, and you're not trying to do fancy stuff, you're not trying to use the cameras, maybe you listen to a podcast and scroll some social media, yeah, there's a reason why Motorola can be over 10% of the United States market with almost no advertising. That makes perfect sense to me. That they would have cultivated that reputation and they're just coasting on that market. And evidence like Amazon delivery using Motorola devices makes perfect sense to me. Chris Lopez, I'm still using my OnePlus 8T. It's still running pretty good, and battery isn't that bad because I never used to charge my phone over 85%. Abhishek, the problem with Vivo and other Chinese brands, offices in India don't allow us to use it for work. So I think Vivo showed the highest growth. We talked about this either last week or the week before. Vivo showed the highest growth in India over the last fiscal year. It was like Vivo and Vivo sub-brands. So like Vivo and iQOO saw significant gains in Indian market share. So it's one of those things where it's like you've got to petition and you've got to provision, you got to make sure your IT departments are on it. But I think out of all of the Chinese brands, Vivo has done the most successful job of courting India. Oppo rose, but OnePlus fell. So OnePlus used to be that sweetheart brand that got a lot of traction in India with enthusiasts, but they fell pretty significantly in market share. And I don't know, I can't remember, the Xiaomi brands also all saw drops. So I think Vivo is probably going out there and courting the Indian government and probably bringing more manufacturing to India, and we're seeing that lift. But it's going to take a while before Indian businesses feel like, oh, that's an Indian brand. It's a brand that's manufacturing here in India, and so we can do business with them. A bunch of people talking about other phones, like some commentary on the Xperia's, headphone jacks, memory card slots. It's pretty common on my channel. I think the Xperia 1 Mark 7 has had some battery issues too, so that's not great. Oh, and Antonio, yeah, I'm considering the OnePlus 13, but it's going to be painful not having expandable storage. It's so frustrating to me that we're even still pretending that this is a debate. Your gadgets are always better when you can augment them and make them better. And anyone who says otherwise is a dork. And you may or may not need to tell them that they're dorks to their faces, but you can at least walk away from that conversation knowing you have nothing of substance to add to a grown-up conversation about consumer electronics. I can replace the SSD in my Surface Book, and I can add a memory card. I'm upset with my OnePlus Pad because it's got very limited storage and I can't add a memory card. I can recommend a Galaxy Tab and I can put in a memory card. I can get my Robo Incala, my Windows tablet, and put in a significantly larger SSD. It's always better. There is never a time where your ability to add more storage to a computer is a bad thing. Now, someone might choose not to use that functionality, but that's why restaurants still sell steaks, even though babies can't chew them. Because grown-ups like steaks. So if you're a grown-up, you know having the ability to add more storage is always better. My Steam Deck, switch the SSD, add a memory card. Every one of these handheld gaming devices can add more storage. Remember Xbox, like the 360 used to have that weird like contraption, you could add more storage, like a weird like Lego brick thing that would sit on the top of your Xbox 360. Because adding more storage is always correct. From Nick Gay, I know you hate Samsung, but Exynos demolishes the Tensor's performance. I am so disappointed. I have very strong visceral feelings about Samsung as a corporation, and yet sort of our collective technological future is tied to whether or not we have competition. And we need a foundry that can compete against TSMC. And our President Trump recently just did another like late night, I think it was on Truth Social, like complaining about, oh, well, I guess South Korea can't be a partner of ours. And you're like, what are we doing? I know we're so jingoistic and nationalistic now, and we're trying to subsidize Intel and bring chip manufacturing back to the United States, but acting like Samsung and South Korea isn't an incredibly strategic tech partner for us to engage with is horrifically stupid. So yeah, it's wild to me. Like Google wants their own chip design. They don't want to do business with Qualcomm anymore. I feel like they did not do well with Samsung's foundry. And I don't think the Pixel 10 is going to show us great radio performance improvements over the Pixel 9, which is really one of the places that's like stickiest still on the Pixel. Even on a MediaTek radio, I can get much better reception out here in the burbs, like sometimes like 6 to 9 dB. Man, like a 9 decibel difference on your reception is a pretty big deal if you're starting to have issues like dropping calls and stuff. It like it just makes me really sad. There was potential for the Pixel to be something really exciting and disruptive, price to performance, and I feel like they've now just gone to this, well, it's good enough. And we don't have the problem with Apple. Remember, we got all that disclosure from Apple emails from the executives saying like, if anything, we made the iPhone too good. What we should do is really make sure we scale back on improvements, because consumers will keep paying more for the same tech that we put out year over year. And it feels like Google got to that point, but without actually having any kind of market dominance. Now they're just saying like, yeah, like Apple. It doesn't matter if our phone can't do stuff. Just send it up to the cloud. We'll have the cloud work on it. Can't do 8K video on your Pixel, your $1,300 Pixel? Just send it up to the cloud. Man, I think we've kind of exhausted Pixel 10. I have a 256 gig, what is not the lemongrass, but it's the other yellow Pixel coming in. I am very anxious about the coverage on it, and I'm curious because like I'm gonna trade in my Pixel 8 Pro because Google offered on a trade-in value more than I could have sold the Pixel 8 Pro on Swappa. So I'm not flipping yearly, I'm gonna go 2 year out. So I'll hold on to the Pixel 9 Pro, and when the Pixel 11 comes out, I'll flip the Pixel 9 Pro, and hopefully there are still good trade-in deals there too, because the value plummets. Like I know I'm not gonna be able to sell my Pixel 9 Pro used, even though, while yes, technically used, it is in immaculate condition. Let me see. I'd be shocked if I had, how many charge cycles are on this battery? 29. I have used this phone so little. I have 29 charge cycles on this over a year. So if I were to sell my Pixel 9 Pro, it would be literally as close to almost like new. And it's only ever lived in this monster of a Peak Design rugged bumper photography case with its own magnetic hard latch system. So when it's been connected to other accessories, it has been like motorcycle grade attached to those accessories. This is like the newest used Pixel that has ever existed. 29! I've only put 29 charge cycles on this phone. I can't, like, I keep picking it up and I keep thinking like, well, maybe I'll swap over my stuff. I'll use the Pixel today. No, you know what? I need to stick with the OnePlus. In years past, like, it's almost been a perfect split between Pixel and OnePlus. For the Moto 2022, it was like a three-way tie. I loved the Moto Edge 2022. I loved my Pixel. I loved my OnePlus. But I was like swapping phones a lot. And over the last 2 years, my use on Pixel has just dropped. And now if I leave the house with one phone and it's not the OnePlus, it's probably the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. I just don't even think I'm gonna get through my day the way I want to get through my day on the Pixel 9 Pro. And that kind of breaks my heart, because I know it's just like what happened with me and Apple and me and Samsung. I planted a flag and said, I'm a hardcore nerd and I like to do stuff with my gadgets and I'm really excited about where tech can go. And then those companies said, hey, cool, we're so glad you're a fan, and now we're gonna walk away from all the things that you used to like. And when the Pixel 7 Pro came out, it had incredible performance. Even with low benchmark scores, it could do crazy things. Editing video and processing audio and working on photos. Like, it was an incredible sleeper performance monster. And then Google walked away from what I thought was cool. So from Antonio, yeah, we definitely need more competition. All right. I think I've about caught up with the chat here. From Zell Knight, the rumor of them using a MediaTek radio and then using the same modem as the Pixel 9 makes me fumingly mad. Same. Like the MediaTek radio would have been an upgrade, and all of these tech nerds, oh, it might get a MediaTek part. Can you believe it? Oh my god. Well, let me tell you, MediaTek is ruling right now in CPU performance, and their radios are a very close second to Qualcomm. I think they would say they've got better signal in here and using like, what is it, 5G advanced, and I forget, Red Note. I can't remember. They would probably say they're beating Qualcomm in performance. I think they're really, really close. Samsung is not really, really close to Qualcomm. They're just not. And I'm anxious to see, like, is Apple gonna kind of figure this stuff out too? Because Apple has been struggling with radio alternatives to Qualcomm for over a decade. And they keep having to go back to Qualcomm for their bestest devices. I think they might finally have a good enough solution that they'll walk away from Qualcomm. But if Google had incorporated some of that as MediaTek kit, I think it would have been an even more compelling talking point. It's like, yeah, less power off of your radio means better battery life in the long term. Yeah, Nick Gay. Pixels are built for the maximum profit for the lowest amount of performance. And that must be what average consumers want. They want to spend the most on the best mid. Simon says, Hypno, the X200 Pro got miles better signal than my Pixel Fold. Like, boy howdy, it's not close. Here in the suburbs, and when I know those MediaTek chips don't have full, complete band support for the United States, I was getting faster download speeds and better reception. The Pixel was well behind my X200 Pro. And the X200 Pro costs a lot less than the Pixel 10 Pro XL. So I want to wrap this up. We can use this as kind of like a transition. For all the things that the airing of grievances, as if this were like a Festivus kind of celebration here. Google used a 10th generation Pixel announcement to hawk a bunch of AI stuff. And if some of it is on device, I'll be excited to see it. If a lot of this turns out to be server side, I'm going to be even more disappointed than I am right now. Like, if the real-time language translation where it mimics the voice of the speaker and switches the language, if that requires a data connection, that's going to make me really sad. Because that's something to me that would be so critically valuable if you're traveling through a foreign country or you're trying to arrange for travel situations. And you can't count on good hotel Wi-Fi or the ability to use a 5G connection in another country. But I want to wrap this up here because I've been a crazy, cranky, old man yells at cloud hater of the way that we market AI to consumers. I think NPU, machine learning, these small little applet pieces that are done on device are fascinating. This is the real exciting stuff where we can put a tiny little model into a tiny little NPU and soak up 10 gigabytes of RAM on our computers and on our phones, but then a very focused piece of output comes out, and that is often with a high degree of confidence and a high degree of accuracy. Like, I'm looking at Microsoft put more AI into my Excel spreadsheets and then also letting me know, don't use this AI if you have any concerns over accuracy. What is the point of using Excel if I'm going to get inaccurate answers out of my Excel workbooks now? I mean, I rely on Excel a lot. That's where I've got like I've got converters. I've got these little formulas that I like to plug in, like how I calculate the size of an image sensor. So I'm not sitting there and just memorizing every single image sensor. I've got a little calculator. I built this little calculator, and I can put this information in, and I get a little piece of information back out. I've got years of all of my smartphone performance testing, tablet, and now I'm adding a few laptops to those charts too. Like, since I was at Pocket now, I've got data going all the way back so I can look at trends in how our phones have performed. I don't want Excel looking at all this data, sending all of my data up to Microsoft so that they can work on my data and train better models, and then getting Excel, but, without accuracy. Maybe it's like Excel, but it's not accurate. What are we doing? And I know for a fact that because it's like OneDrive and M365 and it's cloud based, it's not happening on my PC. It's going up to a data center. So Google is trying this. To me, this is looking like the beginnings of the death spiral. We're not there. Investors are still pouring in money because they're trying to float the AI market. Anyone who invested heavily at the high valuations of these companies is hoping they can push those prices even a little higher still before they take their money out. They don't want to take a bath on AI stocks. They don't want to lose money on those investments. So they have to get more people into the investment so they can pull their money out safely, having at least garnered some small profit or minimizing the worst potential losses. So Google takes the iPhone, Google takes the Pixel 10, waters down the phone, and turns it into a bunch of segments on health and fitness tracking through AI and pixel performance, but really it's just AI. And your headphones are going to get smarter because of AI. And it killed me. It just gutted me that we gave up a brilliant opportunity to talk about the software and the hardware as synergy. Instead, you just had a lovely woman who was the VP of marketing at Google just talk at Jimmy Fallon for like 5 excruciating minutes over a table where he wasn't allowed to touch anything. And that's what passed as the phone announcement for the 10th generation of the Pixel. So last week we got all these headlines, all these articles like, Sam Altman of OpenAI said the B word. In some interview, he talked about, AI is probably a bubble. And it's just galling. It's just so frustrating. Because we went through this with crypto, and then we went through this with NFTs, and it seemed like this investor market, investing in technology stocks, the big trigger is this a fad that is going to encourage people and companies to buy a ton of GPUs and servers? Crypto and NFTs demand a ton of number crunching capability. They suck enormous amounts of power. They also just plain, they suck. NFTs amounted to nothing for the amount of electricity and the amount of investment in servers and data centers and computational capabilities. They did nothing for society. So we took this research on language models, which was this passionate, vibrant, enthusiast kind of community. People sharing information and these little models that you could train on your own. And some universities would kind of scale up and use a smaller model on a larger infrastructure. And then OpenAI came in and tried to make it sound like this was going to revolutionize work. This was going to decimate employees because you need fewer humans because the productivity is just going to skyrocket. So you'll have fewer humans doing more work with AI. all of these people really desperately wanted to believe that that was the future of business, because it's always about hurting regular people, right? Every major tech announcement that gets super excited about this stuff is like, well, yeah, it's totally about, so people will work less. No, you know that the business is looking at that so that they can cull thousands of employees but still keep productivity high. And they're trying to do it, and they're breaking all of their employees right now. Someone who tries to track this, and again, I don't know that I believe the analysts on this, but someone was like putting out a number, and that always makes me suspect, like, is that number in any way accurate? But the headline got a bunch of traction on like Blue Sky and on Mastodon, that this analyst saying over 90% of AI initiatives at the corporate level through major organizations have failed. And again, I don't think that's true, but I also don't think we've seen earnest attempts at incorporating AI at any kind of scale, because it is a ruthlessly stupid, unsustainable business model. If you're an AI provider and you're trying to tell people, we bought up all this processing power, we've got all of these data centers, we're consuming insane amounts of electricity, now get a subscription with us. So we'll give you tokens and we'll give you access to our data centers, and now you can do your work through our AI. Well, these companies have done a shit job of protecting data. The privacy is way, way low. So you're going to pay them a lot of money with very little guarantee that your corporate, your intellectual property and your corporate data is going to be protected. Then, all of these things are being sold and built on this kind of introductory rate scheme. So it only costs this much per user now, but we're going to be buying up tons of server space, building more data centers, and consuming more electricity. So how can the price stay that low? It's not. All of the AI structure that we see today is sold on this, it's cheap today, or it's almost free today, because they want you to get hooked on this as some kind of machine for output. And then once you've decimated your workforce and you've laid off a whole bunch of people, and this AI really is delivering anything of value or substance, even though it hasn't been able to do that in the years we've been promising it would eventually do that, well, the company that was burning money, throwing money literally into an incinerator to keep these data centers firing, well, now they need to raise prices. You can understand, like, it wasn't going to be cheap or free forever. How do we make money as the AI provider? And look at how much OpenAI has raised prices on ChatGPT. Like, the full mega ultra account is like hundreds of dollars per user now. Look at Gemini. Oh, there's like Gemini Nano and Gemini Flash and Gemini Mini and Gemini Lil and Gemini Mid and Gemini Medium and Gemini Big and Gemini Giant and Gemini Pro. And you can't know, like, well, I want to do Veo and I want to do this and I want Gen AI and I want Agentic AI and I want to be able to move. So what subscription do I need? And it's really confusing. But prices are already increasing on the top levels of Gemini. Yeah, I mean, they're adding more like cloud storage to make it look like it's a great combo deal, but the prices are already increasing. This was never, ever going to be a sustainable business model. The way that we use a language model, which is really bad at stuff like mathematical accuracy, and trying to convince all of these corporations and all of these organizations that, yes, the basic research that we did with LLMs can be applicable across all of these other industries, was always a lie. It was always a lie. The novelty of the language model was that it was like kind of a word generating soup machine. And it was kind of cool. It could kind of come out with responses that sounded sort of like you were having a conversation. Now ask a bunch of lawyers, is this a reliable product for me to use when I'm writing my legal briefs? Is it really cutting back on the amount of time I spend researching case law and case history? No. because it's all fake and it can just make stuff up. But I saw this really cute project. There's this guy who's training an LLM on Victorian language. And it can actually do a reasonably good job of teaching history because it's just sucking up all of this writing from like the 1700s to the late 1800s. And yeah, it'll reference a war and you're like, oh, was that a real war? And you look it up and like, yeah, it was. Hey, got that right. So that's the fun and the novelty. What if you wanted to make a Victorian era chatbot? And you don't have to worry about the mathematical or the legal accuracy of what it puts out. That's a perfect application of an LLM. Are you going to build massive billion-dollar data centers for everybody to have like Victorian era chatbots? No, 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 that's pretty dumb. So I want to bring this up and I want to close the show on kind of a downer. This business model is, I feel this business model is eroding. Please do not take anything I say as any kind of legitimate investment advice, because I also, I'm telling you about feelings and patterns that we've seen in every other trend investment opportunity, from housing in the 2000s to tech and dot-com bubbles. I lived through the first dot-com bubble. Now, more recently, to server-style investment opportunities. Is the company buying a ton of NVIDIA GPUs? I know how to pronounce NVIDIA. Is it NVIDIA? Are they buying more NVIDIA? Well, then that's something I want to invest in, because that's a real market. They're really selling real things. You wouldn't just buy lots of NVIDIA if it wasn't a real thing. All of these have kind of played out like rug pulls. And it's, to me, it kind of makes me sad, because like the novelty of an LLM has gotten ground under the boot of cancerous growth capitalism. I want you, when you're done with this, to go look up some of the little apps that you can run on a laptop or a PC, and you can put in a model and you can train your own model. And you'll see, like, what does this stuff really look like? What can it really do? And that is so much fun. And then you also learn, oh boy, howdy, I should never trust this thing with real responsibilities. But it is so much fun to have a conversation with my own little locally hosted chat bot. I'm still training Wanbot. I'm trying different models from Llama and DeepSeek and stuff like that. But I've collected every single script and every single article I've ever written. I have over 10 years of writing saved in documents. And I just keep feeding it to this little bot that runs on a woefully underpowered 12th gen Intel Core i7 laptop. And it is so cute. I can have a conversation in my own writing style with myself, but I get everything wrong. I can ask you about my own opinions on the LG V50, and it'll tell me like the feeling words, and it'll get all of the specs and all of the hardware and all of the practical stuff totally wrong. It loves to mix the LG V40 and the LG V60, two phones that could not be more different. But it's so adorable, and it's in my tone. And at some point I'll put together a video on it. For me, it's a fun thing. I'm not trying to turn it into yet another side hustle, but you too can run your own Wanbot. If you just take all of the language from all of my videos and pump it through a little app on your laptop. I want you to play with this stuff, because it takes all the mystery out of it. It takes all the mystique. And you can see, this is not real. This is not something that we should be selling as foundational to the future of consumer electronics. So I want us all to be really careful. Because the thing is, I very desperately want this market to not die, but to not grow. I want it to slowly erode. I think a lot of people feel, hey man, if all of this AI stuff just cratered in the same way that we make fun of NFTs, it would be better for everybody. Right now, in the current political climate, if AI craters fast, I feel it could be as damaging to the overall world economy or more damaging than the 2008 housing crisis. And lots of people were hurt. And lots of people lost jobs and lost homes and like buried in debt and lost retirements. I don't want that to happen. But if we as a reasonable group of technology enthusiasts can kind of help push AI to this like middle point and then slowly back us down from there, I think we have a process where we could recover from this. And then we would have all of this untapped resource, all this untapped computing power. It could help with smaller communities rolling out better broadband and better data for their communities. You could start plugging in other government services. Hey, we've got this empty data center. What do we want to do for scientific research? Now we can get this compute power for a little bit less because we're not just bogged down with all of this BS AI. If we just pull the plug right now, countries, states, cities, and communities have been funneling money and land and zoning and natural resources and infrastructure into all of this growth. We're already seeing these points. Leadership change at Intel. Intel just pulled the plug on facilities that were already invested in. The local communities were expecting jobs, and then billions of dollars just went up in a flash, just evaporated. And you have an unfinished research facility and manufacturing facility in some poor county that was already eating up all of their water rights and was going to dump just yoke a ton of electricity from that area. But now all those jobs are gone, and that infrastructure and that community is going to get no benefit. And Intel can just pull their promise to fulfill that facility. And that hurts that community. If AI craters too quickly, so many more people are going to get hurt. But with Sam Altman out there talking about bubbles, it's almost like a lot of rich people just want to see the entire thing crater again. Because they'll be safe, and their companies will get bailouts, and they'll get all this free money from taxpayers again, and no one's going to go to prison, and no one's going to question why NVIDIA made this the cornerstone of their entire manufacturing effort, and no one's going to question that Intel had terrible leadership during this phase and reneged on their commitments to build this stuff out, and no one's going to question that we've been putting billions of dollars into the CHIPS Act so that Apple can build better facilities for their own AI, except that they didn't because they're probably just going to license some Google tech and slap that onto Siri. So what did Apple do with all that money? We gave them billions of dollars, not Apple specifically, but all of these tech companies have received billions of dollars from taxpayers with no oversight. There's nothing that apparently is stopping them from doing business however they see fit and then canceling projects whenever it's just not feasibly economic for them anymore. And what is the recourse? Where do I see someone say, hey, that's not cool, give us our money back? A part of your company is owned by the US government because you used taxpayer dollars. There needed to be some return, right? What are we doing? So I wanted to kind of wrap this up. I know some people want the crash. I understand why you want the crash. To me, it's like karmic justice, right? I don't believe in an afterlife. I think this is what we're here for, and we're supposed to have a good time while we're here. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. But if you've been through a number of once-in-a-lifetime economic events like I have, I'm tired of seeing people get hurt, and I'm tired of seeing middle-class people and lower-class people continue to fund the unhinged, irresponsible experiments of billionaires, and that the billionaires keep getting away with it. I'm tired of seeing the rich people get to do whatever they want with only token pushback, some stern words, and oh, they got schooled on social media. Oh, Bezos got wrecked. because he just bought another jet. He just bought another jet. And this one flies at almost the speed of sound. Now he's got 4 jets, and this is the fastest. So yeah, he's really getting it when people take him to task on social media. He got burned on Twitter. Whoa, ratioed. And I'm tired. I'm just really tired. And I want you to look around. I want you to look at your family and friends, and I want you to think, hey, can my folks survive another once in a lifetime economic downturn that's going to mess up their retirement? I want you to look at your nieces and nephews. Are they coming into a job market where they can build and grow and have a family and have food and shelter and accommodations? Like, what are we doing? I'm enough of a Boy Scout. Like, what I really want to do is leave it better than how I found it. And it seems like right now, this economy and this market and this population are hell-bent on pulling the ladder after they got theirs. Like another article about, oh, are boomers the next frontier in consumer trends? Like, boomers haven't been marketed to for their entire lives. Like, they're not holding all the cards still. Like, what are we doing? Why are we pretending that this is any kind of meritocracy? The game is rigged. So if we're going to unrig it, it's going to be a lot of hard work, and it's going to take time. And I hope we can be reasonable, and I hope we can be mature in trying to fix these problems. Again, people in my chat, like the viewership, I actually did climb back up in the viewership. I'd lost like 20% of my viewers, then I beat that previous, and now we're back down again. But I'm also at 2.5 hours into this podcast. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm still going to keep preaching because I'm also hoping that you'll be the evangelists who go out there and just plant little seeds. Hey, you know what? Like, that looks really cool. You should check this out. And plant a little seed. Hey, you like having like conversations with your Gemini app on your phone, right? You know what's really cool? You can run your own chatbot. You could make a chatbot. You should check it out. It's just a little simple program, and you put in a model. It's really cool. You don't have to spend $200 a year. I don't even know what it is on the Gemini Pro plan anymore. I want you just out there, because I think that's how we'll make our gardens grow, right? It's not going to be conflict. Like, I can't believe you're doing that. That's such BS. Like, you're just getting taken it. Oh, you just don't even know, and you need to buy a different phone. Like, I get it. That's what I do because I'm talking to you. That's not. I have to come at everything sideways when I'm talking to other people out and about, and it's like I've got to pick my battles very carefully. But I love. Oh yeah, hey, when you're doing that thing on your phone, oh, you don't have that in your camera app. You know what you can do? Check out the Blackmagic camera app. Yeah. You plant a little seed. It's so much effort for so little return, but you start to see these little trickles happening, and people that are like, wait a minute, yeah, I'm not happy with what's going on. Or I don't need to buy a new phone. I can just get a new battery for my phone. It's like those little light bulb moments are so rich, are so satisfying. And I'm hoping that's what we can plan for with the demise of AI. If it craters like NFTs, people get hurt. If we can back out of it and then use that infrastructure for cooler stuff, boy howdy, that could be really fun. So I hope I've left you properly bummed out. If anything, hold on. Let me just wrap up this podcast here real quick. This is Brian. He's the 4th member of our family. He is an adorable, scruffy little mutt. And you will see more photos and videos of him on somegadgetguy.com, on patreon.com/somegadgetguy, and on my YouTube channels, which you can find as @somegadgetguy. So he's adorable. He's a scruffy little barking and pooping machine. He's like 11 weeks old. We love him to tears already, even though he's keeping us up late at night. There, we'll leave off all of the other AI stuff. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in. There's been a lot of chatter about the Google event. I feel like I've been missing, or I feel, myself personally, I feel like Google has missed some incredible opportunities to really make this a more fun, a meatier experience. Just really something we could sink our teeth into, and I think Google totally dropped the ball. I would like to put it out there, and I will shut up, and I'm not gonna argue or like debate you, bro, in the comments. I went really hard on Ricazol because of that one comment, and I apologize. I was up in my feels, and I didn't mean to come down on that comment in my chat as hard as I did. But I would really like to hear, what do I have wrong? I'm about to get a $1,300 phone that I am confident is going to lose every single fight I put it up against. I'm confident it's going to lose to the OnePlus 12. I'm confident it's going to struggle against the OnePlus 13R, a phone that costs less than half the price. I know for a fact it's going to get walloped on by Vivo and Xiaomi and Oppo. So what am I missing? And I really want you to kind of lean into this. If you're telling me it's about average people, you got to give me some numbers. You got to give me something. It can't just be, one time my aunt held my Pixel Pro and said the picture was real good. Why is Google still number 4 in the United States behind Motorola? Why are we still pretending a $1,300 phone is for average folks who are really struggling with crazy inflation across all aspects of living right now? I feel like I'm missing something. But every time I look at data, and I look at consumer spending trends, and I look at the popularity of devices from companies who spend a lot on marketing, I keep seeing the same story play out. But I want to hear if and when I'm wrong. So if you've got it, you've got the piece of info, you've got the data, you know where I'm missing it, or I'm overlooking something, or something obvious is just getting by me, drop me that comment. Hit me up on social media. Leave me a message. You can hit the contact page on somegadgetguy.com. Everything that we talked about this week is going to be in the show notes, somegadgetguy.com, for that blog post. You can leave a message on that blog post. Or you can hit me up on the Patreon. That's where I get to all my messages first. Patreon.com/somegadgetguy. And people can say, like, I'm pretty active there in comments and in the chat there and on the private Discord. What am I missing? Why are we okay with a phone that costs the most that performs the worst? And I'm not trying to be uncharitable, but literally that's what it is. So, comments. Let me know. Folks, I'm going to be back next week. Hopefully a little bit better rested as we get into the flow of having a cute little scruffy puppy again. I don't know. I feel like this entire week is going to be a lot of crate training and a lot of adapting, and you're probably going to see me just as bleary-eyed next Monday, but I will be back on a proper show format. We'll be into the next month. Man, August is already over, and we'll have news. We'll get back into some of the tech politics. We'll get into some of the gadget announcements that are going to be coming up this week. And yeah, I'm just really happy to have you all along for the ride. So everybody take care, be safe, keep your heads down, look after your mental health. Take care of yourselves so that you can keep being the incredible tech neighbors I know you can be. I really am enriched. I really am refueled every week when we get to have these conversations. And I know that while we probably disagree on a lot, we are agreeing on some of the big things and some of the big problems. We just might disagree on how to solve them. That to me is the future of our society right there. That's where debate is useful. We see the problem, now let's debate the solution, not, I don't think there's a problem. Everything is perfect the way that company does it. Nope, no. We don't agree on reality then. So, I'll catch you back here next week. Be safe, take care. I love y'all, and I'll catch you back. I'm gonna go play with a puppy!